One. You are now live on Channel 8 and YouTube.
Thank you, TCTV. Good morning. My name is Matthew Revard. I'm the interim chair of the Templeton Select Board. At this time, I'd like to call the Select Board to order for budget review meetings on this, the 15th day of March in 2025. Would the advisory committee also please call themselves to order?
Yes, my name is Noel Francis, Chair of the Advisory Committee, and at this time I would like to call the advisory portion of the meeting to order.
Would you all please join in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America
and to the
republic for which it stands,
one nation,
under God, indivisible,
with
with liberty and justice for all. One moment, please. We'd like to remind everyone that today's meeting is being broadcast live on TCTV Cable Station 8 and our YouTube web platform. For those who wish to revisit any part of our proceedings, the recording will also be available on our YouTube channel. We would hope that you would subscribe for all the videos. The chat area on our YouTube streams is considered the same as if comments are requested in person. They are allowed by the chair and must be by name and address. If any audience members are recording this meeting or plan to do so, we would ask you to please notify us now. Seeing none, I want to welcome the board, the select board this morning. Thank you all for joining me this morning. This is I know this is a long day for us, but it's an important day, and I expect it to be very informative. I would also like to thank the advisory committee for joining us. Both boards have a quorum, 5 people in the room for the select board, 3 people in the room for the advisory, and 1 person joining us via Zoom. The town administrator, Mr. Lamontagne, is also joining us via Zoom today. The assistant town administrator, Holly Young, is with us here in the room. Our agenda today, along with other public documents, is available at templetonmass.gov, the official website for town information. Here, you can also subscribe to alerts for all public meetings in our town administrator's weekly report. For immediate updates, including emergency notifications, please enroll in the Code Red alert system through our website or by calling 866-939-0911. This service is vital for staying informed on important and emergency matters. As chair, I maintain the discretion to modify today's agenda as needed to manage time effectively, utilize personnel resources efficiently, and ensure public awareness. I reserve the right to rearrange agenda items to best accommodate our proceedings and honor our guests. If this is the first time attending a select board meeting, which doesn't look like it is for anybody, but anyways, welcome. We are committed to serving the community with patience, fairness, and efficiency. We ask for the same courtesy and engagement from all participants today. Let's have a productive and respectful budget meeting today. For those who are on Zoom, we would ask you to please use the video whenever possible, though when you are waiting for your agenda item or you are waiting to be recognized to speak, we'd ask you to have your video off. Please use the mute feature when you are not speaking, although TCTV and the chair can place any and all on mute. It is easier for you to control your own button, and if you wish to speak, we ask you to raise your hand, use the raise hand feature in Zoom, or politely break in if you're only on the telephone. I don't believe we have anyone who's only on the telephone today. They're both on full Zoom. If you wish to see materials shared in the screen, please request that of the chair. You can just email me or refer to which document, and this will help everyone stay synchronized and be helpful to the viewing public. Only the chair and TCTV are able to share content or screens. This meeting today is primarily an informational meeting. We are here to review the proposed budget by the town administrator. We're here to hear from all of our department heads on what they need for their budgetary requirements for the next fiscal year, starting July 1st, 2025, FY26. We will have one action item when we get to Parks and Recreation that was officially posted, and that has to do with their revolving fund.
That was within the time frame of open meeting law?
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Having gone through the statutory reading, the agenda posted is starting with public services, and we have Mr. Robert Sosik, our Director of Public Services, here joining us this morning in order to begin
his presentation for FY 26. Mr. Sosik, good morning.
Morning, everyone. Thanks for having me early.
No, you're welcome. Just for the public's, hang on one second. Gonna have to, so the budget book is online. It's on the town website.
Excellent.
It's also on social media.
It's also, yeah, it is also on social media. That's correct. In the room, sifting through this thing. Select Board, Advisory Committee, Town Accountant. Oh, where is Mr. Sosik?
45.
Thank you. Page 45, it's in section 4 of the budget book in front of you. For those of you who are online, I apologize. I don't know what the page number is for you online. Mr. Sosik, please
So,
be my guest.
if we're all in sync, we'll be starting with highway on the 5100 account.
Yep.
for Personnel. I just want to start by saying, I pretty much, did a level budget, the best I could with the.
Just to
I'm sorry,
clarify, when you say level, you mean level service or level funded?
Level funded compared to last year.
Okay, so level service technically,
But
okay. Yep.
obviously, there are things out of my control, increases, that I have no control of, which were figured in. So on the 5100 account on highway, on the personnel, as you can see, we removed the laborer.
Mm.
I didn't have any hourly rates, put in. Adam put these in. I just want to clarify, Adam, you, the employees that were eligible to move to the next step, you moved, and the ones that weren't stayed the same. Is that correct?
Excuse me, so all the steps are in there, but we haven't negotiated with the union at this time, so there's there's no increase in there because the contract hasn't been settled. So it's just the step increases at this time.
Right, so when I was looking at the current contract for the union, which is still in effect until the end of June, it looks like you moved the ones that could move to the next step, and the ones that are at step 7 remain the same. I'm just clarifying that.
As far as I know, all the steps have been moved up, Bob.
Okay.
Yep.
So like Adam said, they're in the middle of, well, they haven't even started negotiations yet, but with what's presented to you guys today, we will have some changes come spring. Foreman's position and hire another LEO. I'm hoping to absorb most of that when those changes come in, once I know what the rates are. I can't give you a number until I know what the hourly rate's gonna be at that time.
So +1 foreman and plus,
Well, it'll be foreman's position opening
Oh.
in-house or out-of-house.
okay,
And then I'll have to hire an LEO. But when that time comes, I won't know my exact numbers, but what I'm getting at is I might have a good amount to make up the difference between negotiations and the LEO.
okay. I see what you're saying. You think that you'll be able to absorb it within your budget without
Most of
such
it.
of an issue. Okay. Thank you.
Any questions on that?
How many personnel do you have now, Bob?
I'm sorry?
Mr. Chair, if I may.
You may, go ahead,
How
Mr.
many employees do you have now? Full time?
Currently today, 6,
6.
and I will have 7. The tree labor position, which we couldn't fill, was taken off, and we were still short one guy from 2014. And,
Because at one point there was 9 full-time employees.
well, 2 on bills and grounds, so.
Gotcha. Thank you.
And that's an important clarification to make. You have 6 in full-timers listed under highway. But you have 2 more listed under B and G.
Right, there is a 7th position on the highway, but it's not filled yet.
Okay, thank you. So that would come out to 9.
Thank you.
No other questions. Moving on to the 5110. What do you support? Lump sum is 938. That would make that difference up in the boots, glasses, and jackets and bibs. Other than that, everything else is pretty close to what is budgeted for. Any questions on 5110? Moving on to 5200. Purchase of services. A little bit of a hit here. If the differences need to be made up, it would be out of the road painting, center lines, and tree cutting.
So you're saying that the lump sum disallowed of 7614, that's where you would get it from, is road painting and tree cutting for the most part?
Yeah.
Okay.
Bob, for 50, FY 25, how much was spent on road painting, center lines? And how much
The
was
last
spent
time we did it was about 24,000.
how much on tree cutting?
We used all of it.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Mr. Francis.
On the legal advertisement tree hearings, is there any way that can be eliminated? Like giving notice just over town website or,
Well, by law, I believe you have to, if I have one going on now, we have to advertise in the paper, it's online. As well. I mean, I can combine that with the tree cutting, and make it a one-line item and include that as part of it.
I brought this up before, but it seems like advertising in the newspaper, I know it's covered by statute, but it just seems to me to be a waste of money.
And while I would tend to agree with you, again, statute, if it says that we have to advertise by newspaper, then we're kind of hamstrung in that respect, obviously.
Yeah.
So,
Jeff, you got that look,
Yeah,
because you know.
it's why when I did that advisory
That's
by
right.
law, just have a meeting instead of a hearing, so you get away from those requirements, spending that money that's
Not needed.
Yeah.
putting it in print is kind of a waste these days.
I agree.
And it's a legal bill, it just keeps going up.
I think there's ways around it.
If yes, there is ways to do it without having to go that route. We just need to take the time to look at it and then come up with a way to word it.
Come on, plan of action, yeah. I think that's something we can look into,
Advisory, you're saying, or just in general?
just in general.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to do more work for myself than I have to.
No, I get it.
But definitely, I think that's definitely something, you're talking about $1,500. I mean, still $1,500 in savings.
Exactly.
I'm sure there's other departments.
I'm sure, yeah,
That
I'm
was
sure
my
many of them
thought.
have it, yeah. We're gonna go through this and many of them have that line. So they
That's,
need that.
I think that's something to look at. Can you, I'm just gonna write a note, but can you remind me of that later so we can?
Yeah, I will.
I wanna look
Thank you, Holly.
I'll look at that with you.
No other questions, we can move on to
That was good.
Highway 5400 expense budget.
I mean,
Like I said, on this one here, it's everything's going up and up and up.
that's a big hit.
But
It is a
I was just
big
gonna
hit,
ask
that's
that
what
as well. I mean, you've got a lump sum disallowed here of 56,640. When you look at your line item budget, where do you suspect that's gonna come from? That's my problem right now.
I'm hoping between well, can't tell, but batteries, tires, and repairs and maintenance of the vehicles, trailers, and equipment. Like I said, everything I figured pretty close, and then when you take the lump sum, it's try to absorb it somewhere and be cautious of the budget
Mm-hmm.
through this coming up and coming year and hopefully make it work.
You have pothole mix here, Bob, it's at 24, is that like that? That's not from the hot box mix, is it?
Well, no, it's cold patch, but we do put it in a hot box to warm it up to apply easily. Now we're switched over to hot mix currently. We use that during the melt off because the roads are so wet, nothing sticks.
Hmm.
And it's taking care of the complaints, and then we'll put the hot mix in.
When we do any paving, because few years back, I went to talk with the city of Gardner about their hot box, because they bought one. And by using the hot box and road grindings and leftover pavement, they saved so much money on not buying coal patch. They bought another hot box. So when we do paving, what happens? Do we keep track of, or is there anything, are you getting the leftover pavement material to keep, or?
Is that the millings?
No, the
No.
hot box I have, I know what you're talking about, rejuvenating the old pavement with an additive and make your own mix, so that way you have.
So when you pave a road and they pave it, they have any hot top left over, do they bring that?
No, they don't bring it. At times there is some leftover, but what I'm saying, Jeff, a hot box doesn't have the capability to rejuvenate. I got the cheapest hot box just to get the hot box. They do have the hot boxes like Gardner's got, where you can load it up the night before. And by morning, you'll have mix.
So I believe that in the future, that's something we should look at, because like I said, by using so much older material, they didn't save a lot of money.
We had that
buying
in
coal
Westminster. We put it in the night before and cooked it overnight and made our own mix.
Because cutting out $50,000 out of what you asked for. Fiscal 24, you only had $700 left over out of supplies, so.
I know.
You know, and you started with. Highway supplies. I just don't see you operating level funded with a $50,000 cut.
Mm,
Well, it's gonna be tough. I mean, I put my numbers in and then we get the disallowed. I mean, it makes it more tougher, so it's gonna be hard. It's gonna have stuff that's gonna have to cut back or put out of service. I mean, as I said, over the years, we have a couple of trucks, we put thousands and thousands of dollars and it makes me sick, but
Mr. Chair.
it's the newer stuff, yeah, there's warranty but there's electronically and stuff, there's just as many headaches with the new stuff too as well.
Griffiths?
I just had an idea. Going forward, you know, as Jeff was saying, is there any way it'd be worth it to rent a hot box and rent Gardner or Westminster's hot box overnight, or to partner with Winchendon or some other community to share a hot box? Would it be too much wear and tear?
Really, you can regionalize a hot box, but everybody's gonna want it at the same time or something like that.
Okay,
What's one of those hot boxes cost, do you think, off some guesstimation, 150?
Yeah, in that range.
Capital.
Yeah, so within like 3 years, it can pay for itself, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, we got the smallest one, the cheapest one, to keep the mix warm. I was aware of and know that you can make your own mix by saving the older pavement. It don't even have to be pavement left over from a pavement job. It also can be pavement that you remove from the street. You can stockpile and use that as well. That stuff's actually better than the new stuff.
Right, because it's got the oils already in it.
Yeah.
Are there any conversion kits to convert the current hot box into a,
I would have to look into it.
The town should have two anyways. I think Jeff would agree with the amount of holes and the services, the fact.
Oh,
that-
yeah, I mean, like I said, at that time when got what I got, I was lucky to get what I got, and then it got totaled.
Yeah,
And,
within like a month.
yeah,
Yeah, I remember.
but if there's a conversion kit, that'd be a start.
Not for this type of hot
Not for
box.
this, yeah, this would be some
And
sort of-
the town will need two anyways to get two crews out there.
I mean, I would recommend you get a 3 or 4 ton. This one's only a 2 ton.
Right.
You have enough to make it worthwhile. 'Cause it's-
Just dumb curiosity, and if you don't remember, it's okay. Do you know what I know that you said you got the most basic one you could get at the time. Do you know what that ended up costing you, just out of curiosity, and when? If you don't remember, it's okay. I figured
I wanna say it was under 100 grand,
under 100 grand, and how long ago?
It was like 87.
3 or 4 years ago.
Okay. Like I said, just asking the question. Go ahead, Jeff.
Somewhere, I think we're in the eighties or something,
Yeah.
if I remember.
It was like 87.
But again, example of cheapest doesn't always work out the best.
Right. You buy what you pay for.
Sometimes you hurt yourself, but
But that's,
I have a question.
Go ahead, Noel.
If you come up short on these line items, I know, I believe the state is increasing chapter 90 funds. You have the flexibility to move some of those funds to these accounts.
Not into this, the pavement, I would have to, minimum of 500 feet. To put through chapter 90, and that's gonna be on one road, and, to be qualified for that.
Okay, so you don't have that flexibility.
Not that low, not for patching and stuff, I mean, when I first started, we did do Royalston Road. I think we went a little over the minimum requirement. And I was able to use chapter 90 monies,
You couldn't use chapter 90 monies for things like batteries or tires.
No. Equipment, yes, but like I said, when I started, I'd like to see the monies going to the streets and sidewalks before equipment. I mean, the pace we're going and the increases in asphalt. In the last road study, I think it was
2018.
20 something million to do all the roads. It's way out of the water now. I mean, it's gonna take 40 years to do all the roads in town the rate we're going, and by that, before then, all the other roads that were done are gonna need to be done over again. Yes, there is gonna be an increase. They don't know that yet. Normally it's, we get 350,000, give or take, the last couple of years in chapter.
are you putting together your chapter 90 plan?
I'm working on it now.
I think the chapter 90 money is going to be substantially increased, I've heard.
Yeah, it's, again, it's gonna go by road miles and population, it's, so.
So Concord could get more than we could get. Imagine that, or Cambridge.
Oh,
Sorry,
No, you're fine. I was just,
stop, you're putting your hand up, Andy.
as long as it's just my hand. Just real quick here before we continue, where this is a discussion, we do have the public here with us. I'm not gonna make you recognize yourselves every time you come up to speak. I just would like to note that we do have Gail Noel in the audience with us and Elizabeth Toth in the audience with us. Again, I would just ask that you wait to be recognized. I'm not gonna make you come up here and say, Liz Toth, Gray Road every time you want to speak. I'm just gonna, if we've done it once, we're good.
Just
And-
put the number of Gray Road though, not just.
Why? Really, there's comedians in every group. What the heck? Gail, you had something you wanted to say, please.
Just a general question.
Go ahead.
When we do pave roads,
Mhm.
do we automatically put a berm? Because if we don't, it just undermines the quality, and the water gets under it and
Bob, you probably have requirements for berms, I would assume, don't you?
Well, yeah,
Drainage,
we add berm, if there's existing berm, we replace the berm,
Mhm.
if berms need to be added for the drainage and direction of flow, we do that as well, it's all figured in.
So if there is a berm, you
It's replaced,
replace it, but if there isn't, you don't.
Right.
depending
Well,
on
unless-
what the road needs are.
The growth, great.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, good example. The Department of DPW repaved the bottom half of Gray Road this past summer. And originally, the bottom half of Gray Road, the entire length of it did not have berms. And there was drainage issues there.
Yeah.
So you added berms onto Gray Road as a result of some of those drainage issues.
Right, and the past, there's a lot of berm out there, was only done with a single coat, so it wasn't properly locked in, so that's all getting plowed up.
Sure.
Breaking.
Plows are chewing it. Mhm.
Jeff shaking his head.
What's the cost per mile, you think, for paving a road?
I don't even know what their oil price is this year yet, but
Estimation about $1 million per mile.
pretty close.
Yep, $1 million per mile, just so the public is aware. So every mile of road is about $1 million.
That's, well, if you.
That's taking it all the way down.
I was just gonna say, that's taking it down, grading from dirt and then starting over.
Yep.
Makes sense.
What was that last study, 2018, Jeff? And I think we were at $2.2 million per year.
It's, or just looked at that pavement study.
Yes.
In 2018, there was $6 million worth of extreme work, taking it down, bed work, 2 million something. It was total about $18 million in $18 to address all of the things that were found in that study at that time.
2018, right.
And I think costs have probably gone down, so now it's probably about 6 million. I mean, everything's gone. It's probably.
Yeah, it's all-
We just want the public to know.
You have to realize that.
Exactly.
As long as you kick that can down the road.
Well, we've been kicking it because chapter 90 only at 350,000 a year, which he's only using a portion of that. He's doing portion roads. I mean, skim
Yeah,
coat.
some towns save their chapter 90 money for a couple of years and then, so they can do a one road.
Right,
with all the
right.
stuff they want to do to it. It's,
I just want the public to know. Thanks,
yeah,
Jeff.
just so the public knows, 2015, the state put out 300 million, but from 16 till now, it's been 200 million a year.
Right.
And cities and towns take care of about 70 to 75% of the roads in the state, so. And the state collects. In 24, they collected $700 million in fuel tax. That's the fee we pay to drive on the roads. Why do they only distribute 200 million?
It's like a lot.
They don't give out enough money, and if the towns do not come up with the funds, then the stuff doesn't get done, or it gets done to a bare minimum.
And Graceland is looking into getting an updated road study grant, so.
Another one?
Yeah.
Well, great, we're in need of that now.
Yeah.
Since 2018
You've
was the
done a ton
last
of work
one. Even with the ton of work that he's done, I mean, there's still.
to look at.
And he's doing the bare minimum because he
Yep.
only has the minimum money.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean,
Believe me, I'd love to do all the roads, sidewalks, guardrails, I still have roads that ain't gonna make another year, they're terrible shape. I mean,
Boylston Road, that thing's been.
Boylston Road,
Non nightmare.
I don't know.
it's probably the worst road.
It is the worst road.
Sure, it was
It's
mentioned.
been there for over a decade.
Yep. And we just did the study. What was it? And we just did the study on that road again, right?
Mm.
400,000.
So before Royalston Road keeps moving forward, we gotta find $400,000 to redesign that culvert because it messed up, it's changing the standards on
That's
that.
right.
So that's on a back burner again, so,
And all that money we've already spent.
yeah. But you take the three. I think we own that's 3 or just a little over into it already, and they want another 4, so. For 700,000, give or take, you're gonna get, was a $5 million project, now a $10 million project.
Right.
Um,
Would that fall under the grant process as well, you think?
I don't know, they're looking for the town to come up with 400,000, they're redesigning.
Got it.
think we're getting off track a little bit.
Sorry,
Okay.
that was my fault.
So it's discussions, it's good discussions, but let's,
Anything else on the supply budget? Highway? If not, we'll move into the 5600.
if following along at home, we're on page 69 of the, electronic file.
Just, and people are following it, using the PDF, just add 20 to
Okay.
whatever you say, just
There you go.
add 20. That's
Yeah.
the number this year.
Magic number.
Basically. Go ahead, Bob, thank you.
So this is basically just for police details, which is, I'm not sure of, I believe they're in negotiations or just finishing. The detail rates projected to be this year, upcoming year is $56 or $57 per an hour. So work with what I got and do the best I can.
Molly.
The questions moving forward on highway other account. Everything's pretty much zeroed out, as you can see. The only thing I want to bring your attention is we do not continue with the MS4 water management program. The town could be responsible for some hefty fines if we don't comply.
Okay.
And on the street sign replacement, I want to apologize, but that number should be 5,000, not 50.
Oh. Okay. So really that, so your total isn't 1,087,551 there, it's 1,000,000, 42,551.
Yeah.
By reducing it basically by 45,000 as a result of the street sign replacement.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Through you,
Yep.
Bob, did the MS4 go up? Wasn't it originally like,
Well, go up the scope of work that's required for each year.
it's a tier thing?
It's getting more detailed and in depth
Yep.
on the second year, so I did reach out with Fussin O'Neill consultant, and he gave me estimates of what it would be for this upcoming year, another 103,000.
This was in previous years, was this was funded out of your general fund
Well, we
budget?
started out with capital and then it went into my budget, and now this year,
Is my mind serving me correctly? Originally, it was like 30,000
yeah,
something.
25,
We
30,000.
went from 25, 30,000 up to 103,000.
Yeah.
And that's just within 3 years,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, like I say, each step you go, each year, they
Yeah.
require more.
How's the new software working out with that situation?
Well, so I was dormant for a little while because my past secretary been out since October. We're just getting back, feet wet. I actually spoke to Arnie, the software company, yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
and he's gonna start training Michelle. So we can get that going and fire it off.
Yeah,
In the interest of time, I'd ask us to keep the questions to the budget as opposed to other ancillary discussions, please.
gotcha.
Thank you. So I'm asking that discussion was off of the budget. I'm trying to keep the discussions as close to the budget as possible. Thank you.
I do have a question.
Go ahead, Mr. Toth.
On the bottom of this page, the $300,000 design for Berry Road with the double asterisk awarded a grant for $290,000. Do we know what happens to that grant if we don't move forward with this?
Mr. Lamontagne?
So, what I have a placeholder on the warrant. Looks like we're gonna need to match 10K. Then that way we'll be good for the whole 290K.
Can I ask where you have that 10K coming from, please?
It looks like it will have to come out of free cash. Your budget is pretty much cut all across all departments, okay? There's no wiggle room whatsoever. So the only thing is, I didn't want to touch OpEx stabilization. That was my goal in this budget. So the only avenue left is free cash.
And when you say free cash, you're talking about the uncertified number that we won't know until August.
No, free cash got certified.
So you're talking about leftover free cash in the FY 2025 as opposed to the, what we would have for 26.
Yeah, I'll work with Holly and she'll have to put it onto the draft warrant.
Like 868.
Okay, just wanted to make sure that we were talking about the right number. That's all my concern was.
But I. Right.
Yep. Thank you.
Will there be a time, Mr. Chair, that we go over the revenue projections as well? Thank you.
I'm hoping that if we have time between Mr. Sosak's presentation and police and EMD coming in, that we can do it then.
Right.
But yes, Gail, go ahead.
And can you explain what defer funding?
Adam, can you just can you do that, please? Explain what defer funding on this particular page means?
Defer funding means that we don't have the funds within the general fund to fund all these requests.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that for fiscal year 2026.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good. Moving forward, we're gonna be going into buildings and grounds. Personnel, the 5100 account. Pretty straightforward. Again, Jake, the foreman and the laborer, they'll be joining the union, so once they get into negotiations, we'll know what their upcoming rates are.
Right.
No questions in personnel. We'll move into the 5110 account, employee support. Any lump disallowed will probably be more likely out of training and miscellaneous.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Ms. Toth.
quick question, if you go back to 5100.
Yeah.
For buildings and grounds. Why is there overtime for the flags and the to raise and lower? Shouldn't just the salary resource do that?
Bob, can you explain that, please?
When we first put that in effect, I think pretty much when I first started, this gets spent very quickly because the flags go up and down 2 times in 1 week or 4 times, 5 times in 1 month. So we came up with this amount based on the least amount of times that the flags would go up and down.
And then, not to interrupt you, Bob, just so people are aware that was me. Because it was happening on the weekends, Saturdays and Sundays, and after hours. So it wasn't fair for the employees to be on their own dime for the flags to raise them, and there's 5 flags that need to come up and down throughout the town. So we didn't think it was fair for them not to be compensated for their time to raise and lower these flags during weekends and off hours. That was the whole point of that.
And I was just gonna say, the order could come from the state or the federal government at any time. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Right,
It
and
doesn't matter.
if we get the order, we have to do it.
That's correct. That's correct.
We on the email list, we're on the message to raise or lower the flags. And it's 13 flags that we raise and lower.
I'm sorry.
13.
Yeah.
13.
So I understand why there would be overtime there, because it would be nights, weekends, holidays. The order can come at any time, unfortunately.
And there are 3 flags right in view of this building.
That's correct.
And then you look at the common, there's at least 2 more. There's one at the police station, so that's 6.
Yeah.
There's one on the common in Otter River.
Mm.
There's one in Gilman Way. There's one on the
Aldenville.
common in
Yeah.
Aldenville. I mean,
Old Park,
Cemeteries.
Gilman Way, there's a flag. I mean,
cemeteries, yeah.
you know, you're
My question really
Mhm.
is more around, we have an exceptionally tight budget. And for areas where, just because we've always done it that way, maybe there are things we can do. Yes, the flags need to go up and down, but maybe we need to be looking at a different approach that, all right, this area is handled by this department that has a salaried person, so it's not one person spending 2 hours, 3 hours going around doing all the flags. And you take a different approach to still getting the job done and lowering the cost and not doing the overtime. Yes, if it's one person, I get the overtime, but you gotta be looking at the whole budget differently. And this is just, I realize it's nickel and diming, it's only roughly $1,000 or so, but still that adds up. And that was my point, was why are we doing it that way? Why aren't we looking outside the box, changing the box? And that was just it.
Right, and why can't we have a group of volunteers?
That's what I was
So it's
thinking,
a box,
Mr.
yes.
Chair. I was thinking
Yeah.
Boy Scouts, Eagle Scout
Yeah.
badge, new badge for the Boy Scouts. Getting kids involved in town government. There's a little,
Each section of town could be handled by a certain group of volunteers.
brainstorm.
No, yeah, that's great. And I think,
This could
again,
be
this
a
is
work
all,
off. This could be one of those tax work-offs.
Oh, for assessors?
Yeah.
these are
If I may, Mr. Chair,
all great ideas.
Yes, Mr. Lamonte.
I don't have the raise hand feature on my Zoom for some reason. So I kind of have to jump in. If we could be cautious, well, because building grounds is now going to be in the union. So if we're talking about volunteers and everything, I would kind of caution with contract negotiations.
We're just gonna say you might step over their contract without unknowing.
I would be cautious about that.
I would,
Understandably.
Oh, geez.
And volunteerism. One weekend, I know there was the governor's order to lower the flags to half mast. Myself and another resident went around and did it, but if you depend on volunteers, okay, yeah, I'll do it. I get sick, it doesn't happen.
Right.
It's, yep. It's not like in the old days, and I don't like to go to, but people work locally and were around more. And nowadays,
Just not as,
on-call fire departments, see how much, the pool of people that has disappeared from that. Committees, boards, commission, all of that stuff, just, it's one of those things that it sounds good and it may work initially, but outside of the labor contracts, down the road, I don't think you can depend.
Okay, I'm going way outside the box here, thinking 21st century. How about smart flags? Everything, on a timer.
Yeah.
Could you put them on a timer, raise and lower them on a timer
we'll probably come to that eventually.
eventually can.
through an app?
Yeah.
There you go, there's a project for somebody out there.
We gone 52.
All right, continuing, Bob, thank you.
Back to 5,200 on buildings and grounds. So again, this is pretty much budgeted for what I would need. We did finally get rid of Greenwood Alarms and switch to a new alarm company at all the buildings, and the monthly monitoring fees are included in here.
Did you get any savings with that?
Um,
Just out of curiosity.
There wasn't a savings, it was service and updating, for instance, the building here, they couldn't even get parts for the equipment that was
So they,
here. And they're a state bid price company. And they have room to grow with them, in the future, whether security, cameras, all that stuff. We do have buildings that need extensive work. Right now, I replace what we had at each location and updated it with better service. This is gonna be a tough one to disallow, which would be coming out of all building areas. As the building repairs and stuff, it's extensive. Garage door if you need a motor, or an installation. At something of a rate, it's over $2,000 per door. And I well expended that last year, this year between DPW and the fire. So that's where I would have to steal that from. And have to be very cautious on and pray, hopefully nothing majorly goes wrong.
Excuse me, Mr. Skolnick, is there an error on the library alarms? It says 1, 2, 15. You slide out right over, it says $750, so it's a $500.
Oh, difference, yeah.
Almost to the bottom.
Oh, okay. Um. Yeah, I believe that's gonna be probably monthly or quarterly. That could be a possible mistake.
Determine which that is.
If I may,
Go ahead.
that will just be absorbed with the lump sum disallow.
As a mistake or as the quarterly payment?
It's a wash essentially. Even if it says 715, it's the lump sum disallow, we gotta absorb it within that.
Right, but the problem is the FY 26 request says 215 and your recommended says 715. So something's wrong. And I know we're nitpicking over $500 at this case, but it's $500 in a budget that's about as tight as you can get. So I think we'd like to know where the mistake is, if there is one.
My point is, it gets absorbed within the lump sum disallow.
So it should be 215 then, correct?
So you just change it to 215, then you change the lump sum disallow and still come to be 62,000. It's a simple change.
It's not 750.
So 215 and then reduce the lump sum disallowed by 500. Okay. All right.
And Mr. Chair, so we pay $10,000 as a fee to Winchendon for the transfer station for our residents to use the transfer station at no cost. Which in fact, there is a cost, it's $10,000 a year, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
No other questions. We'll move on to buildings and grounds, supplies 5,400 account. So. It is Christmas lights and volunteers. I'm fine with that. It is what it is. But as you move down into oil heat and for Scouts Hall and Emergency Management Building, you're looking to you go some winterize them. I don't know, mothball. I think, yeah, mothball. What he's using. Whatever you decide on. But I just want to say with the Emergency Management Building, in my past experience, that's steam heat, with a steam boiler. So what you do is you're gonna drain the system. There's no actual way of getting every piece of moisture out of a steam heat.
So we have potential cracking.
So you can't put antifreeze in it because antifreeze doesn't evaporate when you charge the system. It's going to create a lot of air locking in pockets. So yes, you have the potential of having more damage when you go to start it up again as far as leaks and cracking. I just want you to be aware of that. And if you were to mothball both locations, you're probably looking at $1,500 to winterize them, the two locations.
I just want to clarify too, that is the proposal here, is that you are, Mr. Lamontagne, in order to make your budget, you are proposing that we basically take out of service Scout Hall and the Emergency Management Building and mothball them for the time being?
That is correct. I think the board, when the presentation was done the other evening, you're seeing the cost of keeping a building like the emergency management building very expensive, and it's not ADA compliant. There's a lot of challenges. So quite frankly, I think the best for safety of not only the volunteers of emergency management is to either mothball it or use it for storage. These are tough decisions that have to be made, but I think they're the best decisions for the town. People should not be in an non-compliant ADA building. It's as simple as that. I mean, we have to look up for the safety because something happened there. OSHA would be there so fast, and the liability for the town. I mean, I have to make these decisions, but I believe it's in the best interest of the town.
Mr. Lamontagne,
where would you propose that currently where everything goes on at Scout Hall right now and where everything that goes on in emergency management, where do those operations move? Is my next question. If we mothball those facilities, where do those operations move?
TCTV was at Town Hall. They utilized the conference room.
Yep, I agree. I understand that. I'm working, I understand that, and I realize that they could probably revert back to what they were doing previously, but I'm more concerned about the emergency management building. I mean, where does all that equipment go? Where does emergency management operate out of if we mothball the facility?
That's why I was working with Rich Curtis, the emergency management director, and he was coming up with a plan on how to move forward. But he understands my concerns relative to that building. We're keeping that building open puts the town at severe liability. I should have done this years ago, and I'll take that. It was a decision I had to make this time, especially with the budget being the way it was, or it is, I should say. But it's a non-compliant, the ADA report, and just the energy usage out of that building is, I mean, if the board didn't want to mothball it, I would suggest using it for storage, just using the first level. Rich could keep all of his equipment, everything there. But that's why I put mothballed storage. It's really, I mean, my last day is Monday, so Holly and the board will have to work on how to best move forward with the emergency management building, but it should not be used where somebody could fall down those stairs and then have a lot of problems.
Thank you for your comments on that, Mr. Lamont.
Mr. Chair, this will also affect your insurance premiums as well. When you have a vacant building,
Uh,
that will also double your premium.
Right. Can I, Candace had a comment and then I'll come back to you. Okay, Jeff? Go ahead, Candace.
Is if you use the emergency management building for storage, like things like that, like vehicles or
storage.
something that has gas and stuff, they will have to be winterized too as well if they're sitting in it, correct?
Mhm.
Okay, so that's an extra cost to get all that up to par. Cause it can't just sit in a cold area like that. It could freeze over. I know anyway. That building, I mean, I understand the stairs to use it for meetings or stuff like that. But for storage, I think we lose that for storage. We don't have a lot of storage in this town. I mean, just surplus, when you get rid of, like, if you redo the kitchen like in here, all that stuff goes in the basement of the senior center for now, because we don't have storage. So that would be a shame that we lose storage in general.
I have a concern about a building that was just completed
Yes.
and closing it up. I will second the thing on an empty town building insurance wise. And off the top of my head, this board, we should investigate. We have an ADA plan. There's the Massachusetts Board of Architectural Review. And I believe if you submit a plan, which I believe we have started, it's whether I support it or not, it's in place to that would cover us for anything that may happen at that old fire station in Baldwinville. Now, Scout Hall is just a completed building with a working department in it, and we're just gonna close it up. Again, this is something that we can look at further down the view. Don't make the decision today, but leave it. You just complete, it's like, you build a brand new house and then you just shut it down and you move away. It bears looking into. And what do you do with that department? The reason that part of that was done because they're working out of a closet. And it's a really supported thing from the residents' point of view that is provided to them. They like that. They like to be able to watch these meetings. They can watch them live. They can look at them after the fact. It helps them, find out what's going on in town. It's a very supportive function.
And then scouts are using it, the Girl Scouts have been using it, other organizations have been using that building as well.
So.
Right, Holly?
Not the Girl Scouts,
whatever
the Girl Scout
cost
leaders.
For heating and electricity and so
Please.
forth,
Sorry.
what is that cost? And
Again, like you said, you spend $100,000 in that project and, I mean, I have no say, but you vote and pass to lead it and then shut it down. And in between, if there's an insurance adjustment and, winterizing, I think you're gonna become within peanuts of, well, what you're looking to save.
It's $10,000
Peanuts.
$10,000 too.
to heat those two buildings.
Thank you.
Keep it.
I just wanted to ask a question.
Yeah.
Now, that department, the cable television is the one that's in it. The question is, were they asked to told about this and could they, would they have had an option? I know their budget has issues, but it says it's like 3,000 something for that building. Were they given the option to be able to, absorb it within their budget for that 3,000 something? Or is there more cost overhead than the 10,000 between the two buildings that we don't know about? You know, is it more than 10,000 for two buildings? You know, because it says 3,000 something for Scouts Hall. So was that department head asked the question, you know, because they're gonna lose the building and their storage and their ability to do, and then the Scouts and whatever to use the building, you know. Was there any discussion on that? What, you might have to close your building, by the way, you know. They, you know, can you make some hard adjustments to absorb that 3,000 something? You know,
Adam, do you have anything to say about that?
This is my recommendation. Ultimately, it's the board's decision. So this is that's why we have these budget discussions. But I would really advocate to close them, I mean, to either use storage or mothball the emergency management building. The Scout Hall, I mean, it's not as much savings as you're going to get with the emergency management building, but that's really a board's call. But if you do restore to 3,090, you're going to have to find it someplace else. So just for the board to take that into consideration. And if they do use it, I would certainly encourage another department to also utilize that building to save other space. Thank you.
Mr.
Let's just put the 10 grand on a side, you know.
Yep.
Yeah.
Everyone put a sticky.
Yep.
And as we go through.
Yep.
We'll find the 10 grand.
Okay.
Cause that's what it sounds like people
Sounds
want.
like great.
The only,
I already have some.
Same.
so I know, Steve Castle, he's also has equipment in their old, like, water garage. He pays for the heat over there out of his budget, so that could be a possible savings down the road, but when I talked to Steve, I don't know how many of the thousands of dollars it would cost to remove that stuff to another location. But that could be a future thing to look at, is getting them out of that building.
Liz, and then I want to try to keep going because we're closing in on time here.
General comment on any one of these things, that the cost for closing these buildings and everything and rearranging things isn't included any place in the budget. It should be, for any of these kinds of conversations, they should generally be a facts and alternatives discussion.
Thank you. If there's no other questions on,
Just one other quick comment.
go ahead.
Bob, you touched on the heating system, especially at emergency management. On both of these buildings, there's also a very tangible cost to winterize or drain and prep the existing water, toilets, sinks, et cetera.
The plumbing
And-
and sinks and those would be drained and antifreeze.
It's a little different now. We're coming into the warmer season, but if this was September, October, November with the winter we just had,
Yeah.
deheating a building, you can expect drywall cracking, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
There are other expenses that this would cause and drive down the road that I don't think were completely looked at or considered. Just an
Well,
observation.
I know that it depends on the building, how
Yep.
tight it is, the moisture. Go look at the old Ballingville School. That's a prime example.
Yes.
I'd like to-
Excellent example.
If nobody else has any other comments, I'd like to keep moving because we're already getting a little behind schedule here. I want to try to keep us on schedule as much as possible. Mr. Sosek, 5,600.
Building around 5,600. Again, as you can see, on the Scouts Hall, emergency management building, utilities have been, zeroed.
Right.
Again, I'm gonna bring it up. I do every year. In the past, before my time, I guess, Templeton, you didn't get charged water, sewer, electric at the town buildings. just that alone would save you $100,000. Something to look into. No questions, moving on to the 5,700 account. The only thing that's in there is continual rotation of a leaf blower.
Right.
No questions there. Snow and ice, 5,100 account personnel.
We backpedal just a moment. And I
Yes.
apologize. 5,700 buildings and grounds. Finish replacement, the windows, it's being recommended at a 0 with a 19,800. We just heard the presentation not 2 nights ago where Karen Chapman came in with a discussion on the green communities. And until we can't move forward till the buildings are completely buttoned up and ready. And this one is just mind boggling to me.
Yeah, it's been on a few years.
Yeah. But I don't know where we're going with this and I don't know what the intent was, but just a general observation.
Thank you. Snow and ice, 51 personnel. Talk about snow and ice every year. I personally don't keep like going into deficit in free cash. I like, always like to have a little more to work with within my budget, so you're not using as much deficit and free cash, but I mean, if you can't predict the winters,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I have to go back to 5,700 real quick. Replacement windows. Wasn't that CPC? Wasn't that part of the CPC list?
no.
Why was it not?
I put it on the capital bill for the last 3 years anyway. And the price just keeps going up.
My point exactly. Okay.
So I don't know when they remodeled this, but they didn't do all the windows.
No, the front,
No, right, corners that were cut here just to get in here, and a lot more could have been done.
and CPC did probably 90% of the building between the
Yeah.
roof, the vault, the heating system, and the electric systems on target for that, and now using CPC for the windows potentially, which would be a good route of, which would be a good route moving forward. It is still taxation dollars, 100%, it's matched. And I think it'd be a good course of action versus $19,000 off the general fund budget, which is being knocked off anyways to begin with.
That's why they got the building designated to store it.
That's
So
correct.
they could utilize those funds.
Yes.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Want to comment on that? I think we should look into that. It's a great idea.
Yeah.
And I can tell you from sitting next to those windows.
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're happy.
we're wasting electricity and oil on
and
that
after
heat
you just had
loss.
that review from the green communities and being a green communities, place, with the stretch code,
Mhm.
I think it might be a good opportunity again for CPC funds and the partnership with the CPC, which we have, which would be a good opportunity.
Sorry, Bob,
Thank
we
you,
can,
Bob.
you can continue again.
On the snow and ice.
Okay, now we're getting back to snow and ice. Okay, that's fine. Yeah,
Snow and ice.
that's fine.
I got a text. It's basically saying that was budgeted for 2,500 tons of salt. Only purchase 1,800 tons, and trying to increase the brine, that is a $70,000 cost reduction. I don't know if that's accurate. I got a text.
Yeah.
No, well,
So
last year was 2,500 ton estimated use for the town of Templeton. This year I loaded to 1,800 ton, which are able to go above and beyond that percentage, but we're responsible for using at least 1,800 tons. Like that one ice storm, that 3 days, we used over 300 tons just during that storm. So again, it all depends what type of storm you get, ice, snow. We're better off with a foot of snow.
Right.
And versus the ice and snow and ice.
Yeah, that one storm was fun. It was not fun.
it's hard to calculate what you're gonna use each year, because you don't know what the winter's gonna bring. Yes, we're more involved with the brine. And again, the brining, you gotta have, the conditions are gotta be right. You can't just put it down, the roads are gonna be dry. Temperatures, if you put it down wet, it's a waste of money, and it's actually less salt than, the rock salt being put out. It's a pre-treatment that buys you a little time and it helps clean up, go much better.
Thank you.
Thank you. You, Bob?
So,
Yep, thank you.
moving on to 5,200 account. Purchase services. Again. Especially the metal cutting edges, I feel that they're gonna be way out of the waters this upcoming year with this. Tariff tax. Work with what I have in my budget. And again, I can most guarantee you'll be in deficit next year. Snow and ice 5,400 expense budget supplies. Salt, like I say, you know, you have enough money in your snow and ice budget for the amount of salt that's being projected to use, so. If you were to just buy the salt, you're already in deficit. I know we had discussion was last year in a while and trying to find a comfortable spot to be at in the snow and ice budget. So we don't lose the ability to go into deficit. I believe we came up with around 225,000. That put us in good shape. I know you guys have been trying to increase that, and when we increase it, then we decrease it. So, I mean, it's the town decision.
Hang on one second, Bob. Yeah.
I have a question on the previous overtime.
Yeah.
Do we have shifts? More than one shift in the highway department?
No.
Okay.
No.
Not with our current staffing. No.
They, I know what you're saying. I know a couple of towns and it hasn't really worked out. They winter time, they have two guys on a rotating shift on call at night. And you end up losing that manpower because they go home come 7 o'clock. And if there's a storm, they do stay and carry over until the storm's done. But I think that would hurt us more than do us good if we had that here. There's no other question. I think that about wraps up the snow and ice and see the number that's pretty well self-explanatory on.
The only question I have is with snow and ice for the repairs to plow, sanders, hydraulic, that's not baked into any other. You know how you have repairs for all your equipment? That's not baked into any other
Oh, yeah.
additional, but
Yeah, this was all itemized in a separate budget when I started, but it's all used for winter operations. It's not combined with the regular highway supply budget.
Well, just for clarification, the 42 plow blades, that's not the blades, that's the edges, the cutting edges?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Sosek? Hearing none, thank you, Bob.
No, you're
We
welcome.
appreciate your being here this morning.
Rest of your day goes well.
I hope so too. Thank you. Mr. Bennett, I know that we are 8 minutes behind for your presentation. Are you okay to wait until after Parks and Rec is done? If you have somewhere else to be, I'll move you up.
Mr. Chair, that's Chief.
I'm sorry, I said Mr. Bennett, but you're right, Chief. Do you have a problem holding off and talk to Parks and Grounds? If you have somewhere to be, we'll move you up, obviously, but you're good?
Yeah.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Chief.
here's tables for my.
Ms. Graves, Parks and Rec.
So I don't really know. I had some disallows and all that stuff, so I had to figure out how I would, oops, how I would do it. So I decided that I would just make packets on how I did what I did. So to work with the disallow lump sums, so I made, so make it streamlined easier,
Thank you.
yeah. That was
Very kind of you.
biggest problem, so you follow along on your regular sheet, and then this, I made my own sheets that just shows how I worked with the disallowance.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then it also has sheets in it, it's, you know, says some things that we did, so I just thought it would be easier.
Wow. All right.
Okay, so let's
Yeah, so it's just easier for me too, so.
take a look at your, we can start with your
Personnel.
5100 personnel budget. please.
Yeah, so if you see on your page 61, $1,544 was disallowed. So, and it pretty much says I can have everything, so I had to figure out, well, I'm not gonna get that money, what am I gonna do?
Yep.
So, and because you know, we have people that our commission is what runs it, I wanted to make sure I made it clear to them how we would do it. So I did it. So the first part you see on the one I gave you of ours in our packet is swim, and that stays the same, 1,500. The swim instructor is 1,000, that stays the same. The Parks and Rec assistant is $18,916, and that went up a little bit because we got a raise for that position that we didn't have last year. So
Candace?
Yeah.
Could I, in the interest of time, could I just ask you to point out where the?
Yes,
where
so-
it's some allowance.
I had 30 hours for our part-time seasonal laborer. So I made it 27 hours, instead of the 30 hours, and that's where I cut it. On the seasonal laborer, and then I also, and then there was a little bit extra, and they had been wanting to get a raise for the playgroup counselors. So that little bit went into there, because when you do the, 30 hours and you cut it,
Mhm.
it's not gonna, the math's not gonna be there. So I gave them the raise, so they went up to 2,000.
Okay.
And then you'll see there's a 505, because there was $5 left. So I gave that person a $5 raise.
Okay.
So that's how I absorbed it in the disallowment.
Okay,
Does anybody have a question?
What's the playgroup coordinator?
The what?
Playgroup coordinator? Is that like a new position? What is that?
So we have playground, it's a playground, we have 5-week program in the summertime.
Okay.
It's 2 or 3 days, during the 5-week, it goes hand in hand with the swim program. We brought it back, it was a traditional program that the town had, it used to be over in the center back in the day. And our coordinator, has, you have all the kids and stuff, they get dropped off, they get signed in, signed out. They do, on the last day, they do rockets, they had a barbecue. They do, sports they learned how to play pickleball last year, they do crafts
This is all held at Gilman Weight?
at Gilman Way.
Okay.
Yeah,
Great,
so
okay.
that's what that program is.
Thank you.
And I didn't want to cut anything because it's in its infancy.
Mhm.
And we have to really drive some sponsorship to really help build it bigger. But at this time, I had talked to when I got this sheet, I called up the coordinator for that, because that's where I think the thinking was that I would cut that program, and right now it just can't be done. So that's why I took a little bit of time away from cutting the lawns. I feel like based on what we've done so far, since we're new to that too, I thought it worked.
Okay.
It'll work. We can make it work.
Thank you. It used
Very
to be
good.
5 days a week.
Yeah, it used to be, but right now we're still in the
Field trips
infancy of
and-
it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, first of all, you ran the swim for how many years?
yeah.
Awesome job.
Enjoy before that.
And our
but-
swim is Red Cross certified, and they do get a certification when they pass their course.
and knock on wood, there hasn't been a drowning.
Yeah.
There was 2 before, there was 2.
No.
Yeah, knock on something.
Okay, so,
10?
yeah, so the next page,
Good.
No changes from what I can see here.
yeah, there's no changes. It was just that we put in that trailer in it, and of course that was just, that wouldn't be allowed. But we had to show you that we needed a trailer, so that was that. So there was no change on that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Very good.
so then the next one was a disallowance, and this is where you have some extra paperwork to go with it.
Wow.
The $6,723. So what you'll see is, as you go through, you'll see the page, I made the corrections. And then you'll see stuff on, the, weeding, seeding of the, property. So in order to make this work, the commissioners voted and we signed a contract. So we'll be taking care of, and if you see on this, Gatsby's quote on the page, it says $3,200. We'll be paying for that this spring. We're reseeding the soccer field. We're also, we'll be doing this year, the $1,492. So for the, slow release fertilizer for this spring.
Okay.
And we're paying for that out of our revolving account. Because it has to be done because the soccer field is a mess. What we won't be paying for, and we could not find in our budget, is the $4,800 you see the quote for the seating of the softball field and field hockey. That won't be happening. There's no place we can find it for next year or this year. What we did was, we want to make sure that the lawns can be fed. And so the $7,223 is where the budget is. And the winterization and opening of Gilman Way is about $500 or $600 to do that. And then any plumbing issues, if something breaks and we bring in the plumber. So that's where that brings us to the $9,000. We had some expenses when we brought the cannon up online. We didn't know we had a manhole. We didn't know we had a lot of stuff. We're still having to buy fit for the sanctions for each one of those, like the candy cane things to put the cannon on. We bought a few of them this year. That's why if you look at our budget from this year, we're like hardly nothing because we had to spend it all on the front end. But we still have some material, but we will need more material to continue next year to fix that problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
5,400 account looks like you didn't. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Are you working with the Narragansett Regional School District since they use those fields?
No, we don't get any dollars from them.
You have no dollars from Gansett?
No.
Okay. Anybody else use the field?
Uh,
Like softball?
Well,
anything?
our Red Cross, our Babe Ruth, girls softball uses it, all our programs use it. We're just getting into, it's been difficult because people don't really understand, but we had our first, 2 events that people booked it. We had the field hockey, boosters booked it, but they fit the qualifications where they didn't pay, they didn't have to pay, but they just signed a contract, they gave us their liability. So if something they would have done on the property was wrong, we could have recapped anything, but it was perfect the way they left it. They did a great job.
Okay.
And then we had, the, Touch a Truck that was with, and again, because, the DPW did it in conjunction with them, and it was also the joint animal control officer. So that it was the qualification of it didn't pay a fee for that to use the property for that day.
Oh, there's softball leagues out there that are always looking for. people to
Yes,
use.
and we have the fee based. If they don't meet the qualifications, there would be a small fee to
There's
use the
policy in
property.
place for that, correct?
Yes,
Thank you,
yeah, the Parks and Rec has passed it.
thank you.
So we're trying to get revenue when we can.
And just give me 1 second, please.
Sorry, with that, with the fact that Gansett is legally a separate entity, why aren't they paying fees to use why aren't they paying fees to use it? Because it's coming out of the town budget, and Phillipson isn't contributing to it. And I'll be quiet. That's just my question.
I already know, I know, obviously they are a separate entity and obviously they meet the requirements for usage anyways, based on the policies that I've read. I'm only asking questions I already know the answer to. So she's in a kind of a bind, but why I brought that up is there should be some type of, negotiation with Narragansett as a handshake deal, whatever how you want to call it, just to say, hey, for upkeep and maintenance and management. But as far as the policy is concerned, they meet the requirement for free use.
Yeah, they meet.
But I thought there would be, I only brought that up because I think that in the future, I think with Parks and Rec working hand in hand with Narragansett, with that field use. And the fact that people, to have to pay for our kids to play sports in the school systems now, which is coming up soon. I mean, I don't even bring it up because I think maybe she might have an opportunity to go to Narragansett and pitch a deal if possible. Make
Yeah.
a deal, Gansett, make a deal.
Yeah, right now they meet the qualifications of, when you have so many residents that are in a program, they meet the
I'm sure
free
Chris is watching.
use of qualifications for a sponsorship from Parks and Rec. But yeah, we're in our infancy. I mean, we were signed in by the governor in 2022, taking over parks, so we're still learning. Our first budget, they just gave us some money and said, you know, nobody really knew. And then our second one, and so now we're at the part, we're coming around our first fall, so now we get the understanding.
Mhm.
So now 26 is we're into our understanding. So some things, we understood, like the, winterize and closing of the, concession stand on the bathrooms and the water. Like on our budget last year, it tells us that it's $500, or we get it, but then you didn't know that you had to pay, we didn't realize we had to pay for the opening part too.
Right.
So, and then, of course, we didn't realize that, like, if, when they put out the cannon, that we have to, it's out of our budget, not Bob's,
Right.
that we have to pay for all those parts and have the plumber come in and work and stuff. So all this stuff, we're learning it because we're in our infancy. We're an infancy department right now.
Mr. Chair, Candace, can you do a shout out to the businesses, please? Because I'll tell you, without the local businesses in town
Yep.
donating and sponsoring all the youth programs in town, she would not be able to survive.
Well, you'll see that on the page, and I can explain that. So,
Thank you.
so the next page is is our,
May I interrupt for just a moment?
64. Yeah.
Oops, okay, go ahead.
Candace, can I back up for
Yep.
just a moment on your 1,000 here? PO Box, $90. Is that quarterly? Is that annually?
We pay a one-time fee.
Is there a reason we can't use the town's general PO Box?
Because we have to be able to go check it at any time. We're doing registrations and they come in the mail, and we have to have easy access to do that because it's time constraints to get the shirts, get all the items and all the.
Just a
together.
question. I mean, I know it's $90, but
Yeah.
we got a bare bones budget and
Right.
every penny counts right
Yeah.
now.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay, so the next one is the, is it the,
5,400.
so this is our, this
This
is.
one I had questions on because
Yeah,
I see
so
the
the-
lump sum allowed still there, and I'm
Yeah,
like, you
so
know.
this is, okay, so this is our, and what you'll see, this one is not gonna be easy for us. There could be issues that we can't get things done if we need parts to anything to be fixed. So you'll see I added, maybe my spelling's horrendous, all the kind of things that the supply account would use.
Yep.
So anything from, we currently, that's why the upfront, we bought a lot of wood and stuff because we're placing the benches in, Gilman Waite right now. So we've been replacing them, painting, we painted the concession stand. So any of that stuff, so you can see, and then also our assistant, you know, she needs the paper, the copy of paper, the pens, the markers, all that stuff. And then our laborers, that's basically, it's all the maintenance of the park. Like we bought a swing that cracked, this, past fall and had to replace it. So if another swing goes or another piece of equipment goes, so if you'll see, last year we were received $8,850. So with the disallowance of $5,835, we're now going to be less to do everything we need for a whole year, for $8,800 and I mean, 3,000. So $3,000 less is not gonna, so if something goes wrong in the parks, we will not have the ability to take care of it, unfortunately. So we also see on the sheet, you'll see all of the, programs, and you'll see the $10,000 to soccer programs, equipment, sponsors, and shirts and awards, and has a star near it because it comes out of the revolving account. It's based on all the sponsorships. Without the businesses that we get to sponsor these programs, we couldn't make it work. So if you were to take all of that, especially if you were to go back on the, on our employees, and you'll see stars on that too. If you would take all that and add this math, it's about $80,000 that we bring in for sponsors and for fees for people to register for our programs. And people always say, our fees are based on it's exactly what it cost, and when we figure out that math, we're a little bit under because you never know if your registration is going to come under that year or higher. But it's been working, the formula that we've been using at Parks and Rec, and we've been giving the services to the town for all the programs that we give, so. And it's all based on revenue that we bring in through fees and sponsorships, and the businesses are phenomenal in this town. And if you go to the town website under Parks and Rec, you will always see that we list them all. We'll put links to their businesses, and we hope that the town will go and visit them. We understand that if there's a possibility when you guys are doing your magic or whatever you call it, to try to regroup on this page. This is the page that I'm having the difficulty with the 3,000, at least, at least a portion of the 3,000 that I'm losing from this 25 to 26.
Mr. Chair, I mean, I understand all the stuff that's is missed. I mean, I have, two major things, obviously, first aid kits and AEDs. You guys don't have an AED on?
We do, at Gilman Waite in that we bought it last year.
Okay. And
Out of that.
does the fire department help with that as far as?
No, we didn't, we had to pay they secured it for us. They sent us the bill for us and we paid the bill for it. But we have one, but we really could use another one. We need one that travels. So when we do Red Cross swimming and stuff, we should, we need to do that, but we will not be able to. Obviously, we can't afford it right now, so, but we do need one that we have a portable one that can go with us. Like, so when we go to the school and we use it for basketball, we have no access to the school ones. They're all locked up. So if we would have an emergency, I don't know how we're supposed to do that. So we wanted to have one that we could,
I believe the school one is, so you break the glass. You
break the glass, okay.
Correct.
Open the door.
You open the door.
Oh, you open it.
Yeah, it should
But
be
we-
also.
But the swim one, like when we're at the, like we don't have access to the one inside the clubhouse for the fishing game or anything, so.
Yeah, I don't want to go back in time, but I don't want everybody being in their own sandbox, playing with their own toys.
Right.
We should be able to have utilization around this town, because this town is what makes the town the town. It's the people in this community. So I mean, work with the fire, work with police. I mean, they.
Even
will-
CERT.
Well,
Yes,
even
sir.
Hooten Park, when
You
it
get
comes back
grants
up
all the
online, it's not gonna
time,
have one, it's gonna need to have something down there too.
I mean, even if you talk to CERT, I know CERT has a couple. I mean, even if you, again, my point being is let's work together here, ladies and gentlemen, not like in our own box, using our own toys. I think we need to look outside the box, as Holly pointed out and everybody else in this room. Because if we don't, we're gonna lose. And I don't want to lose anybody because we didn't have an AED available and I know we do have them in storage somewhere. And we have the ability, same with the new set, the rapid blood stop kits that the chief and his
Oh,
team
yeah,
put up in
the
all
clock.
different buildings. To a point, I think one's coming to this building.
Mhm.
That should be something else that would be available at at Gilman Waite as well, in case somebody gets hurt and there's a lot of bleeding. So again, more things to work with each other. And I think we can do that. We just need to communicate it effectively. Do I think, Candace, you need one for your own organization? I do, but I know they have contracts. I know the fire department has contracts with physio and other organizations out there that get these things at a reasonable rate, I would assume, and the more you buy, the lesser it is. Again, these are things we all need to work together with. Oh, yeah, Mr. Chair, thank you.
I'm Candace, I'd like to say that you have done a wonderful job with this
Yep.
program. It
Yes.
is amazing as a
More than-
parent. And I don't want to see anything sacrificed here. And my comment would be, is it possible, or is it not, to put somewhere on the forms when people are signing up for like a possibility to make a donation? Because, $65 for my son to play T-ball is I would pay $75 for him to play T-ball, but is it, for people, or to post a list of things that you need, and maybe people would be willing to bring, we used to have to bring Gatorades, I remember at the start of the year to supply the concession. What if people bring a box of Band-Aids? I mean, just
Well-
other ways to get people involved in the community, because this program really
Well,
can't
Or go fund.
use anything.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
okay, so we can, when we do our registration, add a piece and say if you want to do an added donation, or we can do it on UniPay, that's a great idea. But when it comes to when the concession stand, when we first opened it, after the pandemic and we did our first soccer, we got a lot of stuff. We got a lot of different things, food wise, Gatorades and stuff, and it just didn't work out. When you didn't bring something forward to the public, they would question that we weren't selling it. It was a lot of stuff, and we didn't sell a lot of some of the stuff. It was, so we decided to streamline it and just buy and then resell, and make it pay for itself. We just felt like, and then the same thing with Band-Aids and things like that. It's just best when you're dealing with the first aid type of materials to secure it yourself, because you don't know where it's been.
Yep.
But yes, an added donation, we can add that.
Or for like
Um,
office supplies. I mean,
yeah.
any little bit helps,
Yeah.
because Parks and Rec really can't. afford
Yeah,
to
we
do
can add a donation, but if we start getting a bunch of material, we have limited storage, as
Yeah.
everybody knows. And so we don't want to have a lot of, and then things that we don't want to waste even their, resources and stuff. We don't want to So it's just best that it would be a monetary donation. So we can add an extra button, but we're not allowed to fundraise as Parks and Rec. So we can do donations, we can do sponsorships, we can take fees in. And so this is the thing that the public doesn't know, we're not allowed to fundraise directly. And we're not allowed to pan, really like, other than a program saying, a need. So as a commissioner, we have to be very careful on what we do and how we do it when it comes to trying to get things from the public. So we've been very conservative lately, in the last couple of years, because we tried the past, it wasn't the right way to go. So,
Well, your National Play Outside Day, which is coming up in August, I believe it's the first Saturday.
yeah, it's 2 days.
Put it in your calendar. Are you doing tables and stuff for that as well?
Yep, so anybody can get a space for free, because it's still in its infancy. We just hired, a coordinator for it, Tiffany Newton. She has a lot of experience and, she has a lot of contacts. And it's one of those things that if you were like in a booster club or something like that, or an organization, it's gonna be just like it used to be in the center of town, where you can set it up and those things can make their money. They can make they can fundraise at our event.
And you are getting dollars back. So, Mr. Chair, why I brought that up was just the fact that that would be another avenue for Parks and Rec to receive more dollars based on the more tables that they rent, so to speak.
Yeah.
The better off it's gonna.
Yeah, that's the goal going into it, but being a new fair, we're not going to, we're giving the spot for free. And we're getting sponsorships to help over cost,
Thank you.
but our concession stand will be open, and we hope that if we do it right with all the employees, all the volunteers, and bring the food items, that will make some more dollars on that end.
Is it a possibility to ask, I'm not sure if it's even possible, but to do like a raffle item where as a vendor, you're getting a free spot and you donate a cup that you make, and then there's a raffle
Yeah,
table?
that was someone else, like another organization could do that, but Parks and Rec cannot do that because it's considered, raffles and things like that are not allowed. You're not, just not allowed.
Right now, we're short about $5,000 in Parks and Rec, is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Chair? Yes,
Mr. Moser has raised his hand in Zoom.
Mr. Moser, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't see that.
That's okay. Good morning, everybody. Candace, to follow up, I guess Jackie jumped in with the donation angle before I did, but is there an opportunity to seek a donation from a company or a sponsor for the AED that you're looking for, and or solicit a grant?
Yeah, we can look for grants on that, and if a business is out there that wants to donate it, we can always put a little thing near it when it's outside too. Where it is to say it was donated by that business or something. I mean, anything in the park, we're looking into right now possibly doing where they call it, like a business can come in and just, put the flower beds or something like that, or put a sign and say they did it. You see that all over. So like I said, we're in our infancy. So it's like, we had to do policies and we had to do this and that. So now we're coming into that kind of activity. Those are the kind of things we can, but any business can always reach out to us that wants to work with us or has their own idea of how they want to donate or how they think they could fit. Like if they want to have a sign up at the park, or, we can always use another scoreboard or something. They're more than welcome to contact us, and they want to work with us. If there's a donation, we can always use another batting cage or, something. There's always something that the community can always use, especially with parks. And with our programs too as well, like an AED would benefit the programs, and it would benefit the community in general, having those in the parks.
Yeah, so maybe some of the businesses that are already sponsors of some of the programs that you offer, and then any other businesses or institutions in the area, perhaps, in a thank you note that you send out or a solicitation you send out, you could add, hey, these are a couple items that we're looking for as well, if you're willing to sponsor them.
Yeah, that's a great idea. We can do that, definitely.
Thank
I'll
you.
to the commissioners. I'm sure that they will love that idea.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I just also want to commend Commissioner Graves for preserving the work that's been done. A lot of money's been spent in Gilman Way and going on to Houghton Park, and it, rather than just let it get ruined right away, she's on the watch for things that are, potentially destroying the work that we already had done, or taking away from the work that we already had done. So I just want to thank her for
Yeah,
that.
the rules
For
are
watching out for the
rules are not
public.
easy in this town, but yeah, some of the stuff.
They're not
Yeah, and
easy.
then they don't, and there's not an understanding too, people there's not an understanding on how they came to that rule. Because a lot of stuff, I mean, if there's no police report or something on it, no one's gonna know about it, so.
Thousands of dollars are spent and
Yeah.
not wasted.
All right, so then the next page is the one that has the projects, and some of those projects will be on the warrant. The only thing that, on this page that we haven't had ability to try to secure would be the skate park, but that's still a work in progress. But the truck, we did get the truck, a truck from, surplused from the Light and Water Department. We're very thankful. We want to thank them for that. And we purchased, a $2,000, replacement bed for that truck. And Bob's working to get it on, the truck, and then, he's gonna have it painted with the thing, the seal, and then Parks and Rec on the truck. So our laborers now will have that piece of equipment, so they won't be using their own vehicles anymore.
Mr. Capel?
Yes, obviously, some of these, you're also in line with the CPC funds as well, correct?
Yeah, we have two articles coming up. One's taking care of the replacement it's many moons, on the fencing and the dugouts for, Gilman Waite, and then we have another one, possibly that's based on, contingency of getting a grant, another parkland grant for Houghton Park. Houghton Park is, it's a work in progress.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Commissioner Graves on her budget? Mr. May?
Just one question that just came up here regarding the truck that.
Yeah.
They donated. I was wondering if there's any money in the budget for repairs, maintenance,
Nope.
fuel, oil, all those things.
Nope, that's why that says that notation on the piece of paper.
I don't think Mr. May got your packet of,
Oh, no. I didn't
He
know.
rolled in while you were-
No, it's gonna work, because, yeah, especially with the disallowed for the supplies, yeah, we're not gonna be able to afford any of that stuff, so.
But
I
just
don't know how it's gonna work.
Commissioner Graves gave us a packet of numbers showing what her lumps, how she was playing her lump sum disallowed and such. I don't know if you got
No, I
that.
got it.
No, I didn't, but I
Yeah.
Bobby
see
went-
what you passed it out. Oh,
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, there you go. Are
Um,
there any, but it's a good point, Bob. Thank you. Just for the, and just for your information, Bob, I know you came in late. I'm just gonna announce that Robert May has entered and is with us now as a member of the public, and you don't need to announce your name and stuff every time you want to speak. Just raise your hand and you'll be recognized. So,
okay, thank you.
any other questions for Commissioner Graves on her budget? All right, hearing none, we go to the one action item that we had for today, which is Action Re Parks and Recreation Commission increase request of $100,000 for Parks and Rec revolving account. And before you begin, Commissioner Graves, I just want to refer everyone to the town bylaws. Section 20, Chapter 28 Finances, Section 28.6 Departmental Revolving Funds, Part B, Item 3. The total amount spent during a fiscal year shall not exceed the amount authorized by town meeting on or before July 1st of that fiscal year, or any increased amount of that authorization that is later approved during that fiscal year by the board and the advisory committee. That is the portion of the town bylaws that gives us authorization to, under joint meeting as we are in this, at this time, to raise her revolving account if we so desire.
She's at 80,000 right now, correct?
75.
It's listed at 75, and we're spending right now that came out of it, we're at 71.
Okay, so you haven't spent over 75.
No, we have not. We're in the when we go into the spring softball and stuff, we'll be 100% over it.
Okay.
So you have in front of you the letter that Commissioner Graves sent to the in for consideration of the item. Commissioner Graves, if you have anything else you'd like to add to the conversation, I'd ask you to please do so now.
No, well, we voted for this amount a while back. It was we let everybody know, we let the town administrator know. So when you look at the warrant, you'll see it's already for the 100,000 on it. But at the time they thought, because the 2025 was already voted on previously. So they said when we got close to get to the $75,000 to let them know so that we could have this meeting to do this.
Does anyone from either the select board or the advisory committee have any questions for Commissioner Graves on the request to increase the revolving fund?
we went with a bigger number because we didn't want to keep on coming back to you.
Fair.
Yeah.
The only question that I have is, have you, is the $100,000 number, the number you're gonna submit, that's gonna be on the warrant?
It already
for-
is.
It already
We
is. on the
voted,
warrant?
like I said, we voted for this way, like in, I don't know, September, October, a long time ago. It was made, that this number, and so this number was already for 2026.
And now you're just getting to the point where you need it for now.
Yeah, like I said, we're about $71,000 in spending that we've spent out.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
I move to increase the Parks and Recreation revolving fund from 75,000 to 100,000 for the remaining FY 25.
Can I ask you to hold your motion? I'd like the advisory committee to go first.
Yeah,
Well,
okay.
possible. Advisory committee, if there's no more questions from Ms. Graves, I'd ask the advisory committee to take any action necessary on this side.
I'll make a motion to raise the revolving fund for Parks and Recreation from 75,000 to 100,000.
Second,
Andrew second.
beat you.
You did.
Any further discussion? All right, there be none, I'll take a roll call vote. Mr. Moser,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes, of course.
Yes.
and I also vote yes.
Let the record show that the advisory committee voted 4 yes, 0 no, 0 abstaining to increase the Parks and Rec revolving fund account from 75,000 to 100,000 at 10:10 a.m. I'll now accept any action from the select board.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Curry,
I move to increase the Parks and Recreation revolving fund from 75,000 to 100,000 for the remaining FY 25.
I have a motion by Mr. Curry and a second by Mr. Bennett to increase the Parks and Recreation revolving fund from 75,000 to 100,000 for the remainder of this fiscal year. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, I go to a roll call vote. How do you vote, Mr. Toth?
Yes.
Mr. Bennett?
Yes.
Ms. Griffiths?
Yes.
Mr. Curry?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. That vote is 5 yes, 0 no, 0 abstaining to increase the revolving fund to $100,000 for the remainder of the fiscal year at 10:11 a.m.
You don't get slapped.
Yeah.
Thank
Oh,
you.
sure, I forgot that. Apparently it's a thing. I thought it was an insult, so I didn't put it last year. They're like, you're supposed to. I'm like, oh, okay.
Thank you, Candace.
Yeah.
All right. We are about 40 minutes behind schedule. I would invite between the two of you, do either of you have anywhere to be that you need to go first? Mr. or Chief Bennett or Chief Dickey? Are you both okay to go in order? Chief Bennett, if you please take the seat. And again, my apologies earlier for using the term mister. I should not have. That's my fault. Getting used to this.
Good morning.
Chief Bennett, for the crowd following at home, Chief Bennett's budget request starts on page 48 of the electronic packet, 28 of the section 4 of the physical book that we have in front of us.
60. Add 20.
28.
It's actually the same. It's the same as what we're looking at.
Okay.
Just section 4, page 28.
Section.
Yep.
All right. Chief, good morning.
Morning. Okay, let's start off by looking at the budget from last year. You'll notice it was 1.708. And this year's 1.705. So I'm actually starting below level funded.
Okay.
So let's just jump right into 5,100.
Yep.
You'll see I have a lump sum disallowed of $96,139. Do we have any questions on personnel?
I was gonna absorb that. I ordered.
I did bring some.
What? Oh, you did.
Very good management.
Oh, okay.
What about, the collective bargaining agreements that are not done yet?
There's 2 collective bargaining units not done yet.
So, again, that's why I'm asking, you're going backwards lower than last year. Tell me what is cheaper. on
Nothing's
average
cheaper,
from
Mr. Bennett.
last
You know
year.
that.
Zero.
Nothing's cheaper.
So I just, today is just a discussion and
Mhm.
personally, I see this board and them guys, I mean, the advisory committee, we need to sit down and go over this again, because I don't see how you do this.
Well,
Even though I believe you lost Officer Chapman to,
no.
No.
So we did lose Officer Chapman as a full-time officer. Officer Chapman does work for us still as a part-timer. He does work for the town of Westminster as a part-timer. So yes, he is in 3 other communities besides Templeton. We have an officer in the academy as we speak. She just started on the 3rd of this month. So we are running shifts right now, a lot of shifts with one officer on the 11 to 7. We are trying to fill those shifts as much as possible. I know that social media sits there and says officers shouldn't be allowed to work as many hours as they do. Well, who's going to cover the shifts? That's my question to you.
Is there a legal law requirement that says?
There is no legal law. There is a CBA clause. Officers can't work more than 16 hours at a time, 18 hours in a 24-hour period.
And that is my position, that they should not be working those many hours. And I know the thing comes, you need more officers, but I have those restrictions just driving the truck. You guys have guys carrying a gun, dealing with people yelling, throwing, I mean,
And again, Mr. Bennett, I understand that, but who's going to work those shifts? Who's going to cover the hours? Who's going to be on the road? Who's going to be going to Mr. May's house when rescue can't make it there on time?
Nobody.
And right now, after 2019 and 2020, law enforcement got decimated. Nobody wants to get into law enforcement.
right, nobody there's a lot of positions, nobody wants that, and I don't blame them.
So we have to cover those shifts one way or another.
You're doing a damn
I'm
good job.
making the case that you can't have a budget less than last year and do.
And my response to you, I've been doing this over 10 years.
And you should be commended for hanging in
And
there.
I will make it work. This isn't the first time I've been whacked. When Carter Terenzini was here, I got $156,000 cut. And we made it work.
Thank you
I know
to you and
make
your
it work,
cert-
And I
your
looked at the 23 annual town report. 438 calls investigation with only 50 arrests, so maybe there's a kind of it indicates there's a low crime rate, and people on the force are doing an awesome job. 'Cause
Agreed.
I gotta figure in a lot of those calls, they talk some people down from.
So you're absolutely correct. What you have to understand is in our department, in our town, we are well versed on our budget. Okay, when people sit there and they see 50 arrests, it's not because we didn't have more encounters than 50. It's because these officers understand that making an arrest is extra money to the budget. When we make an arrest of a female, do you know where that female goes?
Oh, yeah, I know, it's Western Mass.
Chicopee. We have to
I was gonna
transport
ask.
that female to Chicopee. Otherwise, we have to house her in our jail cell, which we don't want to do. Because on a female, you have to have somebody there at all times. We try not to go down because to just the dispatcher, that's only in an emergency because the dispatch is over here. And if we have an emergency in that cell, we're looking out for the benefit of the town. There's an emergency in that cell and the guys are out on the roads. So we try, whatever we can do is summons people in so that we don't have to make an arrest.
What's the domestic law requirements now
6-hour hold
by law?
by law. So
Does that tie
your
up an
question
office?
is,
It's-
yes, it's a hit, but we will make it work.
Thank you.
Do I want to? No, I want to have an extra guy per shift. And you brought it up, Mr. Bennett, you put out there area towns. We're at almost 9,000. We're barely at 1 officer per 1,000 when recommended minimum is 1.5. So when you're stuck like this, you got to make it work.
I know it'll make it work, but I can make a lot of things work, but it's
not. I can tell you, Mr. Bennett, I can do this year. I can't do this budget again next year. I can't.
shouldn't do it this year.
I shouldn't, but who you gonna cut? You gonna cut Parks and Recreation? You gonna cut Fire? Those are the decisions you need to make, like Winchon is making. Winchon is mothballing 3 departments right now. If you think our budget is just particular to us. It's not. It's everywhere.
Mhm, I
Lunenburg is
agree.
level funding. Spencer just went for an override.
Yep.
Winchendon is
Well, they have,
$4 million in debt. They're gonna level fund enclosed apartments.
Yep.
It's not unique to us.
No.
But we have a lot of people don't understand. It's the town of Templeton, but it's a business. You need to run a business. It's not just a town, it's a business.
well, I hear you, and you can go through the rest of your stuff, but my
No.
question will be at the end, because two things in your department are regionalized, and I have questions about
Yep.
the true cost to the town of Templeton for that stuff. You know, are we again funding other towns at the expense of Templeton and shorting you of manpower? And my, like I said, I look at it, I can only drive a truck for this so long, and I'm not, nobody's yelling at me, nobody's throwing at, nobody's coming at me with a gun. If I see him outside the truck, I mean, well, okay. But so you guys have to, I mean, you know, but you guys are walking in to a house with two people fighting, and all of a sudden he shows up. What's he, and they both, you know, so it's bad situations, and
Absolutely.
and you've been out there 16 hours, don't tell me they don't have a bad day, and you're people, if they're all people, so I just
No, you're correct.
can't see this. I know you'll make it work, but I can't see keep doing this.
I don't want to
It
keep doing it.
can't
I
go
wish we
back.
didn't have to, because you're right. We run into the darkness where people run out.
I'm gonna do this in order. He was first, then you're next. Go ahead, go ahead. Yeah, sorry. We'll get to you. You're right, Bob. You were first. I apologize.
Go first.
I was that was quick.
So, Chief Bennett.
Yes.
Thank you for all the work your team does. You need more people, you need more funding. We need to figure out how to make it happen.
Yep.
Mr. Bennett, thank you for pushing this, and that's it. Thank you. We need to figure it out.
My point is, to back up what we're saying here is, ever since I can remember, I've read studies that after 11 hours, the efficiency of a worker plummets. And I think it would be the same for the officers, and I agree with Mr. Bennett that I really don't want an officer that's overtired, overworked, carrying a gun, coming to respond to a
Whatever.
you know, uptight confrontation. Right, my house. I don't want them coming to my house. There we go.
Just admit it.
The other side, the other thing I wanted to ask is because I've been looking at the comparables and so forth, and I did notice one odd statistic in town. That we seem to have significantly higher auto theft. Listed. I thought, you know, it was like 20. It was twice as high as Ashburnham and Westminster. And I was just wondering if you had a, reason for that.
We've had a few incidents of that in the actual general public, but some of that has been, you can account to the insurance lot up on Baldwinville Road.
Yes.
We've had issues where vehicles have come in
Okay.
that have been reported stolen from other jurisdictions, and they've been recovered in our town.
Okay. That's
We actually haven't, as a general public,
Oh,
Had a
yeah,
higher.
Townwide,
Yes.
from that one
Yes.
spot.
yes.
The way it's reported, it just seems to look that way.
Unfortunately, yes,
Yeah.
the reporting, we can't distinguish where,
Yeah.
how that is.
Mr. Kaplis.
Two things. The first one, what is your reserve budget? How much reserve funding do you have?
So you'll see down, per diem patrol shifts is 38,566.
How many reserve officers do we have now?
We currently have 5.
And out of the 5, the training requirement that the state has put on the police department that is required, how is that going to impact your part-time force versus your full-time?
As I've been telling everybody here, like a broken record, and I hate to do it,
Keep doing it.
part-timers in the state of Massachusetts are going to be unicorns. They are not going to exist. Unfortunately, when they made post and police reform, we had legislators inside 128 that don't understand policing in Western Mass. They saw part-time officers as not a need because those communities in Eastern Mass, they don't utilize part-time officers. So what they did is they made it so that and I don't disagree with this, but there was a different way you could do it.
Right.
They mandated that every single police officer has to go to a full-time academy. No longer did we have the ability to send them to a part-time academy, which you could have done this in a part-time academy. You could have had them do the same amount of hours. They could have got the same amount of training, and we could have still had our part-time officers. We don't now. They're unicorns. And it also hurts us that where post came in and they mandated when officers must retire. So now we have those officers that could come out and we could utilize them, but they can't. Because they mandatory retirement age and also mandatory, which just doesn't make any sense, and we've been fighting this forever. When, say I retire, when I retire, I can only make so much a year after I retire. Which doesn't make any sense because it's no added burden to the retirement system.
I believe that's until you're 65.
So somebody in from Fitchburg that doesn't want to deal with the Fitchburg call volume anymore should be able to retire, come on to Templeton as a part-time officer and not be restricted on hours. You should be able to make as much as they want because it does not affect the retirement system.
And your training, obviously you put $55,000. Is that going to be enough? I mean, you have an annual training requirement like taser?
Yes,
weapon
under police
requirements?
reform, we have to be certified every year. There are certain criteria. There's 40 hours of mandatory in-service training, and then there's other mandatory trainings above and beyond that. We're mandatory to do 2 firearms training a year now, which used to be only 1.
So that increases also your bullet load, so to speak, as
Yes.
far as your.
Yep.
As well as weapon systems. I mean, did you guys convert to the ARs versus the shotguns?
We still have shotguns, but we do have AR platforms in every cruiser. We have shotguns. Our current weapon system is a SIG 9mm. And everybody has to be certain. Yes.
Yes, Mr. Prentice.
I make these comments with the utmost respect for you and your department. I want you to understand that.
Yes.
And I think that you are past the tipping point. And that the town, public safety is such that it's really a multi-million-dollar lawsuit waiting to happen. It really is. I really believe that. Advisory made a recommendation to the select board that for legislative priorities for the general court, that we asked the state for 6 additional police officers to be hired. And I think you need 6 additional police officers long ago. And I just said, I'm one taxpayer out of 4,000, and I can tell you that in the last year in front of my own house, while driving down the street, there were 2 wrong-way drivers that almost picked me off. And, that to me is, tells me that there's probably many more incidences like that happening. And I know it's because you're not making enough arrests, because you don't have enough men. Because you make an arrest, the officer has to go to court and testify, which is a lot of additional time. You just don't have enough people, and this needs to be addressed somehow. And I don't know how we're going to do it within the budget constraints that we have, unless we draw out of the stabilization fund yet again, or a Prop 2.5 override. I just don't know how we do it. But I think that your funding is at a crisis point.
Precipice. Thank you. Mr. Chair, so Chief, you have 1 officer, 11 to 7, correct?
No, there's 2 officers on 11-7. But currently, we're lucky if we have 1 officer on 11-7.
Now, you remember in the past where we didn't have any 11 to 7. We had the state police back us up from.
That was during that crisis where we took that $150,000 cut.
Right.
And we ran an officer 6 to 2, and that was only because of that cut.
Understood.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Mr. Moser.
thank you. Chief, thank you. I know just based on a conversation that was a couple of topics ago about staffing and overtime and things like that, you and I had a conversation at some point last year about if there were additional officers hired, that the cost of the officers could be offset significantly by some savings with backfilling and overtime and things like that. Not necessarily looking for an in-depth discussion about it, but I just wanted to point out to those who are concerned about longer shifts that, you know, hiring an extra officer for, let's say, $100,000 total cost would not cost the town $100,000. It would end up being offset by some significant savings.
A question, Andrew, or is that a?
Well, if the chief wants to respond, he can, but I do think it's relevant to what Mr. Bennett was speaking to and Mr. May, that by adding additional officers, there would be some cost savings that we would find in other parts of the chief's budget. Chief, I don't know if you want to comment on that.
So if we did hire, let's say you hired 3 more officers, we were able to go 3 officers per shift on day shift and 3 to 11. That means it would give us the opportunity to go to minimum manning, and that we could go down to 2 officers per shift without having to fill that 3rd position. That's what he's talking about.
Right, you would move money from overtime to this and.
Well, the benefit of this type of budget is that I can, and that's why I say I'll make it work, because the money's there. I can move it around.
Yeah.
So, yes.
So I guess bottom line is, you know, if we hired 3 new officers for 300,000, we might save 100 or 150,000 in additional costs.
So to be cost effective going forward, rather than just go bare bones, shoot for the higher amount and get it fixed. Is that what you're saying?
I think that cost effective is subjective, Sherry, but I think that it would be,
In
the
the
cost of hiring additional officers would be offset by some other savings. So the cost of hiring additional officers would actually be less than whatever salaries and training we were paying those new officers. Which is
Yeah.
good.
Oh,
Good.
sorry, Andrew.
I was just looking up and it appears there are grants for communities to hire additional officers.
There are.
problem-
There's many grants. Unfortunately, the town has to be able to sustain that long term.
Oh,
Yes.
The grants are one thing, so sustaining it after the fact is the second problem. Yeah,
Yes,
making sure we can put the money in the regular budget to keep them.
We done that before, and we had an officers in grant for 3 years, and when it ran out. You don't
And
plan,
officer
the money's
leaves.
not there.
And we have to pick it up.
Yeah, but I liked Adam's
Goes away.
approach with the APA, you know, get the grant and then slowly work with the department where the town covers some and then they get a final absorption into their budget in a few years.
Just McCumber.
So it's my understanding that there is posting for a police officer and it's been difficult to fill. Is that due to, I mean, obviously nobody wants this job, no, but is that due to the lack of the offering of what your salary would be? Like, are we comparable in what we're offering our officers? Like, you can go flip burgers at McDonald's for $15. I don't even know what it is, and you're gonna pay somebody to go risk their lives for 20. I mean, it's just, as a police family, I wouldn't be thrilled about that, so.
Ms. Maycomb, you are absolutely correct. When we posted for, and it's kind of comical, but it's not really. When we posted for our part-time officers, we put it out there and we actually had comments that's how much they make. There's no way I'm taking that job to risk my life. I'm not carrying a gun to go out there in the community making that much
You
money.
can flip burgers for 20 bucks.
So, no, we don't. We're trying. I would like to see the part-time officers come in and make at least second or third step, equal to second or third step, because most of the part-time officers we have coming in, they're seasoned officers. They're not people that are just coming off the road or fresh. So, but like I said, part-time officers are going to be gone. I don't see number of years, they're gonna be aged out.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you'll see, I mean, I don't want to keep going because we are behind schedule, but one of the things you do have that 30, if you're gonna hire more full-time officers, is what Ashburnham did.
Okay.
You take that 38,000 out of the part-time line and that goes towards the full-time. So when you're saying actually 25 or 250,000 to hire a guy, well, now it's only 200,000 because you have that money.
Right.
Yeah, your overtime would probably be lower as well.
It could be lower.
Could,
Yes.
yeah, could be.
There's potential.
There's also call volume and such to think about with that as well.
You never
too,
know,
so,
because if
yeah.
there's a major incident, that overtime line could go right up.
And then off to the races you go.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or questions for or for Chief Bennett on the ice?
Personnel.
Damn it.
Matt, it's okay.
Forgive me. Any other questions for Chief Bennett on the 5100 line before we continue to?
Thank everybody for me.
All right, continue.
Okay.
Let's continue to the 5110
Yes.
line, please.
What? I got 5,200?
5110?
Okay.
5110, employee support?
Yeah.
Where'd it go?
I have no idea.
Oh, wait, I have my copy. Okay.
I don't know. I've said
Employee
before, I'm
support.
just a
Yes,
village
I
idiot around
got it.
here.
I'm sorry. Okay, as you'll see, this allowed was 6,550. Do you have any questions on employee support, which most of that is governed by the CBAs?
Do you have concern about absorbing that lump sum disallowed? Do you think you can cover that without?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any questions on 51? Yes, Bob.
I have a question. I just kind of as a process, because I've been trying to look at this in the background. But we have a 12-month year, which works out to 8.33% per month and so forth. I look at the police budget and we seem to run under, let's say, that number for 10 months of the year. And then in May and June, we spend it, and it seems to be a yearly thing, and I'm wondering if it's part of the process, and if that is for this stuff here, because I've noticed that by looking at the itemized bill, that there's a lot of let's say Amazon purchases, there's a lot of gal purchases, there's Land's End. I just don't know if this is clothing apparatus, what it actually is. But it just does seem to bring the budget to the max every year. Just a curious
Okay,
process.
Mr. May.
Yes.
So because I manage our budget so efficiently, we run shoestring all year. Then at the end of the year, we have surplus. So we transfer the surplus into other so that we can buy items for the department so that I do not have to come back to the community for capital expenses. So all of this I manage all year long. So at the end of the year, I can get equipment and items for the department that we need, and it doesn't cost the town any more money. It's just good management.
Okay.
This is just an ignorant question, but
No question is ignorant. If it's a question, that means there needs to be an answer.
but why do we need a clothing allowance for dispatch?
Part of the contract, isn't it?
It's part of the CBA and they wear a uniform. We're required to supply it.
Yep. Any other questions on 5110?
Just a quick comment.
Go ahead.
Chief, I'll completely support watching your budget like a hawk, and then at the end, I used to do the same thing with the ambulance. And under the same kind of a premise and timeline, if I was careful throughout the year, all it took was one big aw shit incident. And that would wipe me out. Or I could be really frugal, and then as I got near the tail end, and like to Mr. May's point, the galls expenditure, that's a lot of the things that the personnel use, items, individual things, et cetera. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
But I never wanted to see those dollars disappear and go into oblivion, never to get them back again.
And to your point, that's why I was asking if it's just a part of the process, by basically exactly what he said, withholding funds being tight for the balance of the year, and then when you see that you're clear for the end, then you buy what you need for the department.
Yep.
Yeah.
Public safety is kind of a unique critter because it really is unpredictable and you keep your fingers crossed. Let's keep it low key and quiet and, but it only takes one big bad serious incident and you're in trouble.
Yep.
Yes, thank you.
I am gonna just, I apologize, Mr. Toth, but just, mind language, please.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Hmm.
It is being televised. Thank you. Anything else on 5110 for Mr. Or for Chief Bennett? Oh, my God.
It's-
I know.
That's your thing.
I am not awake yet this morning. I need another cup of coffee.
Matt, I run the same thing.
God.
Sometimes I don't know who to call. so-
It's gonna be that kind of day. Chief 5200.
Okay, here we go. 5,200, you'll see 11,535 disallowed. Do we have any questions on the expense of 5,200?
I mean, again, where do you think that's gonna come from? Do you have ideas or?
I have ideas. As Mr.
Okay.
Nichols said, and as Mr. Toth said, let's hope nothing happens with equipment maintenance.
Okay.
Okay, but you never know. And a radio goes down,
Right.
and a lightning strike, we gotta put
Sure.
up antennas. I don't know. I'm hoping that, equipment wise, we'll be able to absorb that and we won't have much more going on. You'll see the Axon agreement that has gone up. It was more than last year. But that's our tasers and our body cameras.
Right.
And I've got to tell you that where other cities and towns are fighting with their body cameras and their program, trying to get their offs, this town's at a pay officers 12% to wear a body cam. And the way I got it sold to our guys is that it's more of a benefit to them
Mhm.
than it is anything else.
Protects them in any case of questions, because it's.
We've
right
had,
there, yeah.
we've had incidents come up where they've claimed officers were out of line. I'm able to review the camera footage and say, I'm sorry, but they weren't. So,
Yeah, so you said this, you said that, he said that. No,
Uh,
he didn't.
no, you didn't.
No, he didn't.
Camera doesn't lie.
Yep.
So,
Probably saved 100,000.
yeah. Do we have any other?
Just one.
Jerry?
Yes.
Is animal control fixed every year, 21?
It goes up slightly. The thing that hurts with animal control is the unforeseen animal expense, meaning a hit cat that's got to go to the vet.
Oh,
It's hard to really predict what's going to happen. And I am an animal lover, but sometimes I sit there and go, what is this bill from the vet?
It's
But I-
worse than a people doctor.
But I have to pay it,
True.
yes, because they also are mandated by their laws, which quite frankly, I'm not up on because it's animal control. I'm a cop. I'm not animal control. So,
Yeah,
we try and keep it. That number actually went down
Oh.
on our end because now animal control is housed in our community.
Right.
So we're actually able to lower our number on that side.
Right.
Any other questions?
Chief, you have a contract for your radios, antennas and all that stuff with a specific company?
Yeah, Beltronics has state bid. They do all our work.
Thank you.
Yep.
Ms. Toth?
Is there any, because fire, DPW, throughout the town, there are radios.
Yes.
Is there any opportunity to go with one contractor to lower the cost?
So don't yours have to be, I'm not
So-
coded or anything like that, but yours are specific, aren't they?
So Beltronics pretty much services the entire town, I would say.
Uh,
Yep.
Chief?
Yes, as far as I know, they do.
Okay, you have Beltronics as well?
I have Beltronics, I believe, Mr. Zozic uses Beltronics as well. So at least all the major players are
Yep.
same contractor.
Okay.
Same contractor, but if under one contract can change the price potentially.
It's,
They follow mass bid laws.
Mass state,
Anyway.
yeah.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
We follow mass bid anyway.
Yeah, it's state bid.
Yeah, state bid. Anything else on 5200?
Is that it?
5400 is next.
Okay.
Roughly $5,000 cut. Any questions? There's only three items there, so. Where am I gonna save it? I am hoping ammunition wise, we can save it
Save it in bullets.
you have to look, we have to qualify twice a year now. It's law.
Right.
We have to shoot the taser.
Yep.
These are stuff that's put on us that, as Mr. Skelton used to say back in the day, unfunded liabilities.
Yep.
The
Unfunded
state
mandate.
throws it at us and we have to do it. I just hope that we're able to manage our stock, because we have to have some stock
Yeah.
in case something happens. If
Right.
we, God forbid, and there's wood.
Yeah,
here to
that's
knock
what,
on,
that's what,
That-
don't hurt yourself.
that we have a school shooting or a major incident, that's gonna
God forbid.
eat up our ammo, but I'm hoping that that's where we're gonna save our money.
Any questions on 5,400?
Do you practice your tasers on each other?
Yeah, so.
Wow.
I will say, back in the day, it was mandatory that you had to be tased. What happened is,
Did not know that.
yes, it was mandatory, and to carry the taser.
You had to be.
I, for one, am not ignorant, and if somebody tells me that if I stick my finger in an outlet, it hurts, I'm not gonna stick my finger in.
Right.
So first, I did not carry a taser. Then an officer went to court, not in our jurisdiction, but somewhere around here, and the judge said, "Why aren't you carrying a taser?" And the officer said, "Because I have to get tased to carry it." And the judge goes, that seems odd, because you don't have to be shot to carry a gun.
Right.
So it came down that it's not mandatory anymore, it's voluntary.
Wow, it's a situation where logic ruled.
That's how that happened.
Yeah, true.
Next time get some pepper spray to carry the spray too.
You still have to
That
be
still
pepper
has to be,
sprayed.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
You still have to
That's-
be pepper
that
sprayed,
sprays
but that
back.
is only because they want you to understand that if you are sprayed, you can still work through the spray.
Right. There's things you can do.
It's
in order
almost
to work
worse than
through it.
getting tased, because tase is only 5 seconds.
Pepper
Ride
spray
the
takes
white
a lot
lane.
longer to wear
Yeah.
off.
Pepper spray, that, I was putting straight Dawn dish soap into my
Oh my
eyes, and that
God.
actually felt better.
Wow.
So,
All right, anything
57?
else on 54? Bob, real quick?
Yeah, just related to the ammunition issue. I know we had gone through capital 2 years ago and we got some other means to practice with firearms.
yes,
We still,
active shooter.
yeah, we still using that?
Yep, we use it every single year. We're like one of the only departments that I know of that I mandate that we active shooter train every single year.
Wow.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Chief. 5,700.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's, I mean, there's a lot of asterisks there. There's only, what is it, 3?
3 through ARPA, the police vehicle, the station flooring, and the seal code of the station parking and drive.
Yeah, and there's only vests in the trailer that are coming from Capital.
The police vehicle, is that, do you have to wait until July 1 to order that, or is that already?
Police vehicles are,
I know,
I-
you're back ordered, the delay is.
I don't understand the supply chain issues. That vehicle has been ordered since November. We were just notified that we might get it in August.
Wow.
That's how bad it
Holy
is.
Lord.
This,
Jeez.
no, this is another Tahoe.
Another, okay, so another Tahoe.
Unfortunately, I will say, as much as everybody wants to go green, green's not gonna happen. Ford has discontinued their hybrid Explorer.
Oh,
Because quite frankly, it just could not
keep up.
keep up.
So I'm assuming your Tahoes are full on gas then.
Full on gas,
Okay.
much more manageable than the old Explorer, gas Explorers.
Yep.
If we could find another hybrid vehicle, we'll make it work. But we always try to find the cheapest vehicle at the time that's what we go with.
And right now it's
That's
right
why
now
you,
it's GMC.
one
Tahoes.
year you noticed there was question, why did they end up getting the truck and it wasn't this? Because the truck was cheaper at the time than an Explorer. I'm always looking to save money. So if that means I get another truck, I'll get a truck. If that means I get an Explorer, I'll get an Explorer. Regular
Right now
gas.
it's-
one.
right
I'm
now it's the
always
Tahoes.
looking what's the cheapest vehicle to purchase.
And right now it's the Tahoes.
Right now it's the Tahoe. Next year, probably not.
Next
I
year it could be
believe it's-
Explorer for all we
It
know.
could be.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
If you bulletproof vests, they have a life
Contractual.
expectancy.
5 years, federal government, 5 years. That's also a contractual issue.
And I believe, if there's no other questions for you, Chief, that's the end of your numbers.
Right?
Jared, you have
I
something.
do have,
Oh, hang on.
Yes,
Okay, so,
absolutely.
so Mr. Curry first, Mr. Bennett second.
So, a couple minutes ago, the chief said that he cannot, he'll make it work, and I told, he says that every
Every
year,
year.
and he makes it work.
Yep.
And everyone pats him on the back and
Yep.
moves out smartly and does what he has to do.
Gets it done.
What he said, I can't do this next year. So as long as the community is okay with, I can't do this next year, the community needs to understand. You gotta pay for what service you expect. So he's already telling us he doesn't have what he needs, but he's still making it work. The community has to understand what it takes to not only run the department he's being given and directed to run right now, and then what it might be next year.
Yep.
And what it costs to run a proper department. He needs another $250,000 in his budget to be able to bring up his manning and otherwise, $250,000 out of the tax levy of, I think it was last year was 14, we include commercial and industrial and personal property. If the town is okay with reduced service, then the town is okay with that. If the town wants the service that he has been able to deliver, and you know, he's doing everything he possibly can to make his budget work all the way up until he can buy his clothing at the end of the year. He's being that efficient. The town needs to be okay with that, or they have to pay for what they're expecting. That's my only comment, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Curry. Mr. Bennett?
I have a question on the 911 grant, because
Yes.
I'm looking at things in here that I'm assuming they were coming out of taxation, but so the 911 grant,
Yes.
guardrails on that, are there any? So there's specific things that it cannot be used for, or can that just be used for anything and everything?
So the way the 911 grant is utilized is that once it's earmarked for personnel, that we get the offset back and we can utilize it for the maintenance or equipment of the department. So that's how we don't come to the town for excessive capitals, because we're utilizing the 911 grants to upgrade, to maintain the services, other services that aren't on the budget.
Okay, so see, I was looking at this because I'm trying to see where like technology support and software operating and things,
Mhm.
if that could be funded with the grant, because I'm trying to dissect
Yep.
this right now in just a couple of days.
So let's say we sit there and we need to upgrade so unlike, and I'm sorry, other departments in town, we have to be up to date on
Yep.
our equipment.
Absolutely.
We have to. State mandated, we have to be up to date, all right, or we're not gonna function.
Mhm.
So say we need to update and we have a very regular schedule on the equipment that's in dispatch, because that has to be up to date. So that equipment is rotated out. We'll use the 911 funds to rotate out the dispatch equipment. But then the offset is that, okay, these computers are only 3 years old. We can now function those over on this side of patrol and save us money. Because they're still okay to be utilized on patrol side to write reports, but we have to have the upgraded equipment in dispatch. That's how we do it. So it's, I don't know, it's like we use the funds over here to keep dispatch up to date in all the communication systems. We have a virtual server that supplies to all the departments. We utilize the funds that if other departments are in need of radios, they can come and request it from us, and we utilize it that way. So does that answer your
My
question?
question and Mr. Kaplan asked about revenue, and I hope we'll talk
get
about it. I noticed there's $20,000 listed for revenue coming out of the 911 grant. And that's why I asked, there are guardrails on there where it should.
Okay,
can
so
be used
let's-
or Not be used.
Yes, let me explain this, because I know you had some issues with this. Our old agreement with the town of Phillipston, okay, this is agreement's been in place since I think like 1991 or something like that, before my time.
Yes, before you.
They used to pay X. Well, when I became chief, I was like, okay, X doesn't even equal one dispatcher. Okay, so we started to increase it. All right, gradually. Then it was, okay, you need to pay for one dispatcher. Okay. But what happened is when Carter came in, he negotiated an agreement that was based off of percentages of call volume, which I totally disagreed with. And, but I had no say in it. And he looked at me and he goes, Chief, once this expires, you can do a new agreement. Because the percentage agreement was, it was so difficult to figure out. It was this 3 years of percentages, and then I had to break that down to get the percentage that was going to be for that year. And then when Melanie came on board, she was like, well, what's this percentage? And she really was like, what's this equal? What's this equal? So what it broke down to, and under the agreement, is that it was a percentage. So they were paying, let's say, $71,000, okay? But that percentage, they also got a percentage of the 911 funds. Okay, so yeah, they're paying 21, but they're getting 26,000 from the 911 funds. Okay, so instead of making it a percentage base, we said, listen, we'll do a 4-year agreement. We'll make it $50,000 flat rate, so they can't question it. But now you don't get any money from 911. So essentially what we're doing is we're saying 50,000 from the town. We're going to take that 26 that we would normally earmark to them, and we're just going to transfer it into the general fund. And there's your 70,000 again. So it's a wash.
But isn't there a provision in the agreement to transfer at least $5,000?
I hold $5,000 for equipment for them.
To them, and if they ask for more, you can approve it.
And they're told that it depends on how the budget is going. If there's excess, then I will entertain it. If there's not, no. So you're absolutely correct. So before it was $71,000, but they were getting 26. Now they're paying 50. We're putting 20 over here and we're holding the other 5 over here. It's the same amount of money they were paying.
So we're not losing any money.
We're not losing any money.
But how, and that is like, I would like to see the cost of dispatch to the town residents.
Mhm.
What do the town residents pay? And 50 grand, that's not even a dispatcher, not even.
It's not even a dispatcher, and we could do, unfortunately, you're going to, like every city in town, the benefits far outweigh what we're paying. I'll tell you right now, close the dispatch center, we'll go to a regional, and everybody in this town it will cost more money, and everybody will be in an uproar, because our dispatch center, unlike other places, is the heart of this town. We answer every single call. We answer the call outs for every power outage, every water main break, you name it, it goes through our dispatch center. We handle fire rescue. We handle everything from ACO to calling out the plow trucks.
Another discussion for another day.
It is.
Because the dispatch, those calls, if you pay one flat fee to a regional, even though it may be a little more than what you say, you don't have those forever cost of the pension cost and the health.
You don't,
insurance.
but then you also are gonna incur expenses at the light department, the water department, the highway department. They're all gonna have to have call out services, because that regional dispatch is not gonna handle them. And they're not gonna handle fire and rescue. They will only handle police.
They do it for Hubbardston.
Hubbard,
The regional dispatch, and again, this is
Yeah.
off the budget talk.
Yeah.
And, but they handle all those calls for those different towns. And when
They
had-
only handle police and fire. They
Four
do
towns.
not handle general town
They-
calls.
Right, but that's where you have cell phones for, I mean. But when they had 4 towns, they added a 5th town. The cost to the dispatch from Hubbardston went down $18,000. So again, this would take long-term look at,
Mm-hmm.
you know, cost and the pension reduction and the health insurance and all of the training and all of that, one-time fee versus, you know, a business, one-time fee versus having all the stuff. It's like big places like Walmart, they don't do their lawnmower stuff, they don't do snow and ice for a couple of reasons. They'd have to buy all that equipment, maintain it, have the employees, and then they have the insurance liability. So you have somebody else do that work, somebody slips and falls. Call up Jeff Bennett, you ain't getting Walmart's money. But on the nearer front, and we need to have this conversation like as soon as town meeting's over with. Getting more
Yes.
money because if you dropped a couple thousand this year, well, they expect you to drop another 10,000 next year. I
That's
mean,
why I said, Mr. Bennett,
you
I
know,
can't do
it-
this
it-
again next year.
Off topic, 1 minute. The United States Marine Corps used to get a budget, it's just, I'm making it simple, $1 million. The end of the year, they would give 100,000 back to the government. Next year, they would go, we'll give you 900,000. Marine Corps would be
Less.
fishing is fishing, give them back another 100. Well, they only need 8. They got to the point where I went in 79, I'm taking web gear from the Korean War because their budget just kept getting cut. And finally, they had to cough up a bunch of money because they were so underfunded and so behind, and that's what
Not
you're
gonna happen here.
And it's not, it won't work, it can't work, and we just can't expect it, because you can't cut your way to solvency. Unless you're way over budget to start with, and you're not.
Mr. Chair,
Thank
the chief's looking at probably about $106,000 of losses. $106,000.
Yes, Ms. Phil?
If I may, just, could the advisory and select board actually consider, instead of giving $215,000 to the school district, apply the $106,000, $150,000, whatever it is, to the police department instead? The money's there, it's just the set of priorities. Kids, yes, kids need to be educated, yes, we need to do all of that, but we're also paying significantly more than another town for educating our children. Please give the money to the police chief. Thank you.
I'm thinking we might have to balance that with, because he has mandatory, the school must have mandatory, so, you know, it's a suggestion, but I'm sure that we'd have to
Let's consider
come up to the numbers that would balance that out, but it's an excellent suggestion.
This budget says that 215 is from free cash, so it's just a shell game of one-time money.
Oh, yeah.
It's them through the year.
I understand.
And you know as well as I do how I feel about that and how the management policies follow, free cash utilization and how that should be utilized. Right, Jeff? Right, I feel the same way you do.
Any other questions for Chief Bennett on his budget? That's fine. I'm taking the rest of the day off.
TV land. Bennett.
Yeah, no, there's no, there's no, no, we know, there's no relation. All right.
I'll be the
Chief.
minister and he can be the chief.
Yeah.
okay?
Chief, thank you.
You're welcome.
We are about, we're about a presentation and a
Thank you.
half behind here. So, Chief Dickey, your turn.
Make up some time.
Again, for TV land, section 4, page 33 is where the fire department budget begins, fire EMS.
Just replace.
Good
Chief Dickey,
Good morning.
how are you, sir?
Fantastic. How you guys
Doing well, thank you.
Before I actually start, I just had one quick question, a quick comment on the
Okay.
dispatch you guys were talking about.
Sure.
Regionalization, not regional.
Yep.
Regionalization. I would put our dispatchers against any dispatchers out there. The dispatchers we have in this town are top notch. And I know that when I get on an emergency scene, when I ask for something, it's gonna happen. That's it.
That's a good security blanket for sure. And that's a
I'm not saying that.
resounding Yeah.
I'm not saying other dispatch centers aren't as good.
Right.
But I'm saying what we have here is top notch, and I know I can count on it when I'm out in the field.
Thanks. Well, I'm sure dispatch appreciates your vote of confidence for
I
it.
like your word security, Matt.
Yeah, it's a great security blanket to have, absolutely. All right, chief, 5,100 personnel.
Okay, so I'll kind of do this like Chief Bennett did. We have a lump sum disallowed of $75,000. Any questions?
Do you have an idea of where that's gonna fly out of?
Like the chief said, proper management.
Yep.
Mike, I usually out of this account usually give money back every year. 'Cause I manage just like my personnel are gonna take every sick day allowed and every, it would be filled under time and a half. I do have the option, that I have, some part-timers, and when we can fill it with part-timers, we do to try to save some money on the backfill into that, but just proper management.
Okay. Any questions on 5,100 for the chief?
I would like to point out that, under the personnel, that is supplemented from ambulance receipts as well. So when you look at the cost for firefighters and the paramedics, what's listed here, you have to go over and look, of what is coming out of ambulance receipts. So, and this was before Chief Dickey's time, but back, when this first changed from all the ambulance money just going into the general fund and paying for all kinds of different stuff, and you go to get an ambulance and town meeting would vote yes on the debt exclusion, but when it went to the ballot box, it would be no. So you'd be running around with this ancient old van or whatever it was. So to combat that, it was separated, the money was separated out, and it was gonna be 100% fully funded, the ambulance service. Do we have the number of employees to run that ambulance service, ALS 24/7? I know it works, but do we have the number of people to sit in the ambulance? Because my view of looking at this, if you have a big fire and you have ambulance calls, are people going to have to leave the fire to run the ambulance? Or if the ambulance is at the hospital and you have a big fire, are you short? I know we have call-ins, but the volunteers, I gotta believe were, you're on the downhill with people being available to volunteer. There may be some out there, and I'm sure there are, but I don't think it was, it is what it used to be.
So that's correct. Volunteerism, not just in Templeton, but everywhere, is down. And getting what we call the call person, someone that lives in town or maybe just over the border, that's available, is difficult nowadays. Somebody that we consider on call, they're really looking for part-time hours to fill the holes in the shifts that we have open. So to have them as a true on-call person, our numbers are very much down, yes. Past chiefs that told you that the ambulance service could fully fund itself were not truthful. We will never be able to truly fund ourselves 100%, not without some repairs to healthcare that have to happen at the national level. We lose a lot in Medicare money and so forth that we can only collect so much in.
Right.
If we could collect every penny owed to us from our billing amount, we could, but we don't. It's a very difficult game that we play, because the only way we're gonna have fire personnel nowadays is with ambulance personnel. We can't just have paramedics that sit in the station and don't go on fire calls. We would not have a fire department. So we rely heavily on our mutual aid
around our communities so that when we have multiple calls going on at the same time, we can get services from other communities in to help us. And we do the same thing to the other communities as well. So I'll just use a couple of days ago as example. We had a basement fire on Patriots Road. I had a crew of 2 on that day besides myself. We were committed to that fire for 3.5 hours or so. I had Woods Ambulance actually staged at the fire to protect our people and availability to protect the town. We could not staff an ambulance at that point in time. I had 2 other people, 2 on-call people that came in for that fire. So that gave me 5 Templeton people at that fire. I had numerous other communities here helping us, and we could not have done it without. If we had strictly, if my 2 full-time employees that day were just paramedics, you would have had me. I was already the first fire personnel at that scene, but that's it. Even on that day, Phillipston was our first fire engine on that scene. My personnel were doing equipment checks and running equipment to make sure that the equipment stays functional, and had to come back to the station to get an engine to go. So Phillipston was actually my first engine on scene, and our crew was part of the first crew to actually make entry into the basement to extinguish the fire. We bring in, I am estimating, ambulance will bring in right around $552,000 this fiscal year, which will fund its commitments to help run the service, run the whole department. And hopefully put some money aside for the next ambulance when it gets time to purchase that. So we have no ask of the town in raising taxes for the ambulances. Ambulance prices 5 years ago were $250,000. The new ambulance we're in the process of purchasing now is going to be $400,000, if not more. I have
How
budget.
far is that out?
I have a chassis that's being held for us right now. I'm still working with the salesman on outfitting the box and everything. We haven't got to the final design. I have a meeting with him hopefully next week to finalize everything and get it secured. So, but we have a chassis that's in the queue, not get ready to be built yet, but they have a chassis for it. And that's the hard part now is securing the chassis. And it doesn't matter if it's Ford, if it's Chevy, if it's Dodge, or whoever it is.
Pick a name.
Ambulances, fire vehicles in general now, 3 to 5 years away when you order them. When I get the final done on this ambulance, we're probably looking at about 18 months to 2 years tops, because this company was smart enough to order a bunch of chassis knowing it was going to get bad. So.
Mr. Chair.
They did not even have 6.
Ms. Griffiths?
Well, the chief is here. Mr. Bennett mentioned, and then the planning board, Mr. Machete mentioned there's a development going in, and I'm trying to understand who responds to this, the way the particular road is set up, if we lose money on that deal. Because I was under the impression that if the development's in Gardner, but the way access to the development is dangerous, first of all. But if there's a 911 call, our town is supposed to respond to it.
So the way 911 works is it's your actual physical address. It doesn't matter where the road into the development goes. If it is a Gardner address, it would be dispatched to Gardner 911. So, and it's just like we have some homes down here on Patriots Road, the street, the backyards and everything a lot of it is Templeton, but the address itself was Gardner. So the way it worked out was we handled a lot of all the inspectional and the building permits and everything, and they have a West Broadway address after that. So.
Down south. And how long do firemen, are they allowed to fight a fire before they have to step away and regroup, refresh?
Fight a fire or work on duty.
work on, well, fight a fire actually, like, are the, are
Actually.
you? the
So
actual-
there's no time limit to say you have 5 hours or 10 hours or 12 hours on a fire.
I'm actually
It's-
talking about with CERT, we were told that every 15 minutes you have to refresh.
So under NFPA, if you're interior firefighting, every time you go through a breathing air bottle and a CBA bottle, you are supposed to go to rehab and spend time and get cleared medically through rehab. So.
Why you need more.
So you're looking at our bottles nowadays that we're wearing are a 45-minute bottle. It does not last 45. That's a bench test. Some guys can get 15 minutes out of that 45-minute bottles. Other guys will get 40 minutes out of that bottle. So average would be about 30 minutes. You're gonna have them for 30 minutes and they've got to be out at rehab for the same amount of time, making sure they're medically cleared to go in and so forth, to go back in. So. And that's the need to get more personnel at the scene.
Kind of like the police, every 1,000 people, they have to have a certain amount, so.
We don't, it's not done that way for the fire department, unfortunately. We go on apparatus, you're trying to get out the door at a time, so an engine company should be 4 people, ambulances 2. So when we're staffed at 2 on the day, I can only get a half a engine out at one time, so.
Gail, then Noel, then John. Gail? Noel, then John, then Gail.
I know the Woods, does a lot of calls in Templeton when you have, personnel that can't make, that call. Woods is coming in, and my question to you is, what is the arrangement with Woods? Do they get paid the entire amount of the insurance money? For that call, say it's $1,000 that's paid to Woods for that call. Is there a split with the town, or is there an agreement?
So it depends on the nature. If I have an ambulance and a BLS crew and we only need a paramedic, we pay them $300, we recoup the rest. But if they're providing the ambulance and the crew, because we can't make it onto scene with ours, they keep all of the billing. It's their call. We don't see any of that. And that's an industry standard. So if we go anywhere outside of town and we do the transport, we have agreements with, if we're providing a paramedic, we may split the call 50-50 or a $300, or if we're doing the transport itself, because they didn't have an ambulance to transport, then we get the insurance money for that, any billing for that.
Is that in the nature of a handshake agreement or industry standard, or?
Well, so I can't bill for a call we don't transport. I'm not allowed to do that. So they have to bill for that. Anything where we're sharing resources, that we either put a paramedic on somebody else's ambulance or someone puts a paramedic on ours, those are all agreements in between the towns and how we do it. Not a handshake, we have written agreements.
Between the towns,
Yep.
or there's also
Yep,
an agreement with Woods?
between the towns, yep. And Woods is a great partner for us. They help us out and we help them out as well. They're a fantastic partner. So they had an ambulance at our fire a couple of days ago. They did not bill us for that. So, and they were there to protect us and we could use them to protect the town. So.
John?
Yeah, I have 2 questions. The first one is, you have on your 5,100, you have 4 lieutenants,
Yes.
but also on your paramedics, you have 3 lieutenants.
So I am getting set. So I have multiple full-time people that qualify to be a lieutenant, so I have to budget that in case they are the ones that get it. The spots above are call people. So like right now I have a call captain and a call lieutenant. Those little bit of hours are in there to do their extra duties that they have. They run, my lieutenant runs vehicle maintenance for me. So everyone reports back to him. That's money, so he can actually come in and take care of vehicles and equipment. So
I understand that. So the paramedic lieutenants will take the place of the part-time lieutenants because as your manning chart requires, you have 4 lieutenants. And 2 captains.
depending on how it works out, either if I wind up with more call lieutenants, the full-times that are budgeted, that number will go down because it won't be in their pay. But if they get it, then I'll be able to lose some of the hours up top into the call.
Okay, great. That's what I was my second question is like Noel was referring to with the contract with Woods. I haven't seen the contract yet, but I mean, with other organizations, I'll use Gardner for example. I mean, obviously they contracted with MedStar for a period of 5 years in order to receive 5 full-time firefighter salaries that were paid by MedStar for the contract in Gardner. Is there any way that we can have some type of contract with Woods or any other private sector ambulance to cover Templeton, not only to cover us for medical needs, but also to receive a certain percentage of funding based on they're making about $150,000 a year, give or take, from Templeton residents based on their insurance rates and premiums. Is there any that we can recoup any of those dollars for having a solid contract with the private sector ambulance? I'm not saying the whole thing, I'm just saying like.
So I mean, it is definitely something we could look at. I know that. So right now Woods is in Gardner and they have 2 trucks at Gardner Fire.
They do.
They have a hard time justifying both trucks, and that's for Gardner because they weren't getting used enough. And Gardner almost lost P2 over because Woods wasn't making enough. Where if we brought them in and they would, depending on the contract, they would get all the billing money because they get it when they transport in Gardner, they get the billing money. And so if we lose that billing money, how are we going to fund our department?
I'm saying after the fact, so like your rescue one is out with the patient, and then we get a separate call, Woods comes in. Woods is 100% billing that insurance company. Is there any that we can contract with Woods to get a percentage of that? So for having the contract in Templeton per se.
It's something I can bring up to them and talk to them about. They wouldn't put a truck in Templeton.
No, I'm not asking for that. I'm not asking that. I'm just saying in general, because in 99% of the time, if ambulance A is out, our truck is out, Woods comes in because the second medical aid comes in for whatever reason, they transport, they get 100% of the billing. You're 100% right, because they're doing the call, they're doing the transport. But is there a way that we can contract with them to get it?
It is possible to talk to them. It's not, again, it's not always Woods that comes in. We use all of our brothers and sisters in the area fire departments that have ambulances. They come in for us as well. Woods does not always have a truck available. In fact, we do calls. They have a contract at the nursing home and they can't always make the calls at the nursing home, and we're covering the nursing home at some point in times too. So.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
You may.
Chief, I'd like to help you out if I may. This is also not just us and Company A, Company B. This is governed very directly under the Center for Medicaid Services and the insurance and billing. It's an industry constraint placed on everybody. Yes, there may be a mechanism to negotiate some kind of contractual agreements, but the insurance industry really drives this boat as far as how these reimbursements go. And that would be a very slippery slope to negotiate.
Again, I'm not talking insurance rate, I'm talking a direct with another company such as, I'm using Woods as an example. As Woods comes in and takes 100%, like I said, almost $150,000 was not taken from Templeton per se, but they capitalize on Templeton residents based on the insurance rates. All I'm saying is there any way that we can capitalize to say, okay, well, we're going to contract with you to come in, but we would get, say, 25% annually of any asset that you receive. So if you received $100,000, then you would pay Templeton $25,000. Just, I'm using.
So again, it could be a discussion, but if we use your numbers, that 150, I'd rather use it for personnel and cover my own town, my own residents with my own people.
100%. Agree.
So I'll take it offline.
Yeah, two questions.
Yeah.
The first question is, how many times has the Templeton ambulance been responding to the facility in Winchington and had a second call? How often is that? Is that percent, rough percentages? I'm not holding you to anything. That's the question number one.
Back of the
Question
napkin
number,
map,
huh?
back of the napkin map.
Back of the map. And second thing is, because of what, at least from my perception can be completely wrong. Can we have an agreement with that facility that says, when we respond, you are going to pay this town at least X amount of money? Because we're providing support to another town routinely. So those are two questions.
So I don't know the number to tell you how many times we've had a second call, why we go to that facility in Winchton. What I can tell you is, from January 1st of this year until this week, we have had 45 double calls in general. So not just for that facility, but in town, in town in general. So there's been 45 times where we've had more than one call going at the same time. And some of those, yes, have come from that facility. We service that facility with ambulance and fire. We are the closest emergency services to them. The only difference from when it used to be other facilities is they moved their buildings from closer to Hospital Road when they built it on the back property. Now the door is actually, the property is still Templeton, but their physical address is Winchton, but we are the closest emergency services to them. When we go with the ambulance, we are getting paid from them, not from the facility itself, but from the patient's insurance. We are making that money. We bill them, we get paid by them.
Yes, Ms. Noah?
What is the ratio of fire calls versus EMTs?
So there is probably 80% ambulance calls compared to 20% fire calls, as an emergency call alone. All the other duties that the personnel do, between doing inspections, taking care of equipment, going to the schools for education and all of those other things, it really brings it down to, for duties is probably closer to 60-40 ambulance.
Yeah, I noticed Winchton has like 3 times the amount of ambulance calls that it does fire calls.
I can't answer you on another community.
Anything else on 5100 for fire? 5110, employee support?
And we have just over a $5,000 lump sum disallowed. On this one, it's I can manage that difference. Some of the items like the boots and the helmets and the hoods, we budget so many of those a year in case of new employee, or if they get damaged or they go out of date. Right now, I can tell you that we're doing very well with all of that.
Okay.
And I'm not, I budget it in case we need it.
Yep.
Something gets damaged, but I'm feeling pretty good about those numbers, not having to use a lot of that extra money. Plus, I've been able to get a few of those items here and there. We have some fire grants that usually happen at the end of the year. We just received one and there's a second round going, and I can usually get something like that on those too. Gotta save the money.
Any questions on 5100? 5200?
So this one, there was a lump sum disallowed of 27,000.
Yep.
That's gonna be difficult. Yes, we've been getting, thankfully, with the support of the town, select board and town administrator, we've gotten a lot of new equipment and vehicles, but we're still seeing high vehicle repairs on our older equipment. So, with any luck, we can keep that down, and we can hope for the best.
Gail first, then Gail.
How many trucks do we have in service and how many out of service?
So it looks worse than it really is. Because we have a lot of state vehicles down at the fire station that every department, not just ours, tries to work with the state every year. And every time the state gets a new person, it backlogs that control and we can't get rid of them. So the trucks out of service down in Baldwinville are state trucks, that we can't get rid of. We can't sell them. We're not allowed to yet, even though they really don't want them back. Right now, we have one engine that is out of service. It's the one that was damaged in the fire last year. And I just there with the company. I am hoping that I'm only about a week away from getting that brought back and put back into service.
Good.
And then I have the older ambulance keeps going in and out, so it's just for nitpicky little things. I lose it for a day or two and then it comes back and so forth.
Any other questions on 5200? John, I'm sorry, you're right.
That's okay. No worries. The truck that was out of service because it got damaged at that fire, but it went to Canada, correct?
Yes.
Did it come back from Canada yet?
No.
And is that, now obviously what's happening right now with the federal government, the new tariffs and stuff, how's that gonna affect you, do you know?
I am hoping it doesn't, because the tariffs that have on so far, it's not a new vehicle being purchased. It's all parts that could put in repair. And I haven't seen anything in the tariffs that really cover that. They're going after the big ticket item.
300%.
And also, we're working, the last thing they had to do was they needed the artwork for our department patch that goes on the door.
Right.
Which I approved this week. I'm really hoping that truck is being shipped back within a week.
And I'm also noticing there's $35,000 of 27,000 disallowed, there's $35,000 of repairs that are, I would assume they'll be mandated, based on either statute or requirement, based on the piece of equipment. How is that gonna impact you?
Which line item are you looking at, John?
30,000
I know
unknown
this
miscellaneous fire
repairs,
truck repair
and you
and
got
5.
3,500 and you got 2,000.
So that is, I know in the past it's been meant, don't like the word miscellaneous in a budget, but those are repairs. I don't know what can happen. We get a major repair, it could take a vehicle out of service if we don't have the money.
Okay, thank you, Chief.
Also on 5200?
Just, yes, so how many, not counting the trucks that are parked out back? We should just call the state and tell them to come get them, but we're gonna scrap them. Because they don't want them back. How many trucks do we have in service that in this station, that can go up and down the road?
So I have one ladder truck. If you want to include the one that's coming back, there's 3 engines. A tanker. 2 forestry trucks. We have my command vehicle. We have a utility pickup truck and a inspectional car.
And
So you just got a new
And 2
forestry truck,
ambulances.
right?
Yes.
So what the old one was, that's gonna go, right?
So the old forestry truck is in the process of making it okay to be auctioned off. In other words, getting all the radios out, getting the sirens out, getting Templeton off the side of it. And I've already talked with Bob Zozick. As soon as we get all that done, we have a spot up at the DPW. We're gonna bring it up. I'm gonna take it off of, I'm gonna unregister it, take it off the insurance policy, and it is slated for the next auction.
All right, the old tanker, the same thing?
The old tanker, when we get the new one, is actually being traded in, so that'll go when the new
That'll
tanker
go.
comes.
So you should be cutting down on your maintenance budget by getting rid of these older vehicles.
And that's part of what I'm hoping as well.
Thank you.
Bob.
How many vehicles do we have that are out for purchase? For the fire department?
So we have the tanker truck, we're waiting on delivery. And the last time I talked to the sales team on that one a few weeks ago, there is hope that we'll know something by the beginning of May, possibly, for that being delivered.
Okay.
And then I'm working to finalize the ambulance. And right now, we've gotten everything else.
We know how long that is out.
Does that tanker replace the vehicle that we have now, or is that just a new vehicle?
No, that tanker replaces the tanker we have now, and the old tanker is being traded in on that purchase.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I did notice on the free cash, there was a 97,000 payment for the tank. Is that what the take? Was that for the lease?
Yes, I had that, in my budget, and, the town administrator took it out of my budget and put it to free cash.
Thank you. Did you hear that?
I have a
And the
follow-up.
97,000 from free cash is the lease.
97,000.
97, yeah.
I have a follow-up for that. In 2000, I believe it was 23, at the, either the annual or the fall town meeting, we voted to use, appraise and, appropriate $97,500 for the first year of the lease for the
Tanker, yeah.
That was due to the fact that there was still $97,500 being paid on the previous fire truck that was going to transfer. That amount was going to be transferred to take care of this tanker. So if I'm hearing this right at this moment, because of the free cash being used or anticipated to be used in the warrant article, we're paying for that $97,500 twice. It was rolled back into the general fund for the lease. Because we didn't utilize it, because between the chief and the town administrator, they delayed the purchase till July 1st of last year. So now it seems to me anyway, that the town's being asked to appropriate $97,500 from free cash for the second year's payment of the truck, when there's supposed to be money from the ending lease to cover that. So that seems to be a problem to me.
All I can say to is I had it in my budget, and town administrator took it out and
Right, so
decided to use
just
free
add
cash.
He's there. Adam?
Mr. May's question, yeah, originally the plan was, and that's why I'll have to go to town meeting. He's correct. The original plan was the first year was going to come out of free cash. But this budget is so bad, I would have to slash another additional 97,000. So I made the decision to bring it back to town meeting, and hopefully they support taking out of free cash. But I totally understand where he's coming from. But it's up to the board ultimately. They control the warrant. But that was the original plan. This budget's that bad. Once we use that 430, it's really hard to swallow that. It's really hard. And I did the best I could, Mr. May, and the fire chief did put in his budget. I slashed as much as I could, to the point where it's emotionally exhausting. But you're correct.
So the question on the 97,000 coming back to town meeting, I personally think is inappropriate, because we have already signed a contract on that. And to take it to town meeting to say, can we spend the money? We've already spent the money. So it's not appropriate to take it back there, in my opinion, but thank you. It should be in his budget.
So what I would say to the board, if I can, Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mr. Lamonte.
you would have to find, my last day's Monday, so you have to find 97,000 to slash from the budget to make that work.
I think we can.
Okay. Anything else on 5200 fire? 400 supplies.
So I have a lump sum disallowed of 2,600, and just managing the budget should be able to handle that.
Okay. Anything on 5400?
5700 is pretty self-explanatory, anchor payment, Adam just explained it, the theory is to put a separate article out for that.
Well, I
Yeah,
do
go
have
ahead.
a couple
Hang
of
on.
things I can.
Go ahead.
On this, so there are two duplicate from last year on this. Sign in Baldwinville for the station. I have that in this year's budget. I carried it over because I was uncertain if I was gonna need to try to transfer that money for the sign into repairs for this year, but we are still trying to get that project done
Okay.
this year. In the fire department, security updates to 5,000. Gonna take a lot of money to get our station to security updates that we need to do. I'm just trying to pick away at it a little bit every year to do it. I've tried in the past year to ask for $30,000 to do it in like 1 or 2 steps, and we weren't able to secure that. So we have 5,000 I'm working on this year for security updates, and that was just money put in. So I mean, obviously the budget is very tight, so that's something that we'll wait.
John, you had your hand up
I
first.
did, I mean, I'm concerned, I'm worried about, the security updates, I think is very key and important, specifically at the station that has your ambulance with the narcotics in it. I mean, obviously, will this be covered under a capital need, with security? I mean, because I know, the town hall as well as other buildings in this town require certain security steps. Would that be something that would fall under capital? And then also, I mean, I hate to keep bringing up CPC funds, but I mean, is there something that it would fall under the need of the CPC for a building? I'm not sure. That might be just a question in general. But definitely, I think the security updates definitely need to be looked at as well.
We have made some improvements on security. You know, the old door locks we used to have was a combination lock, and when I gave you a combination, everybody had the same one. We couldn't monitor who came in and out. You know, we don't have a key fob system, so to speak, yet. But we have put in passcode locks that everybody has their own passcodes, so I can tell who comes in and who doesn't. All our medications and everything are locked just like that. So you would actually have to go through 2 different locks to get to it. Our narcotics are locked up in their own safe in the ambulance that only certain personnel have the ability to get into. And when somebody tries and to get in done, we get the alerts and everything. So we are making the steps slow but sure on that. So,
But you're still looking at a lot of needs.
yeah, well, the upgrades we need to be looking at now are more towards the camera systems. Our camera systems are old and tough to maintain and use and everything. And been working with Eric Baker up at dispatch because he's got a lot of knowledge on that and has a lot to do with the cameras up at the police station and everything. And we're trying to work with the correct systems that will actually integrate with dispatch so they can actually monitor what's going on as well.
Thank you.
Just one quick,
Please.
not on security of the building, the condition of the building in Baldwinville. If Board of Health agent or the building inspector went in there and checked everything out like they could do on a household, would it pass?
Yes.
Are there issues, anything leaking, broke, that don't work?
So a while back, there was a post on Facebook that showed an out-of-service bathroom and made it look like nothing was being done. At that time, we were waiting on parts. Everything was already worked on. That basement bathroom, at that time, the system was drained and our basement is below street grade level, so we have a septic pump shredder down there. That's what had failed. So that bathroom went out of service for a couple of weeks while we waited for parts to come in. Those parts would come in, that bathroom is back in service. You know, are there things wrong with the building? Yes, I talk to Mr. Zozic all the time about different things there, but things are kept up in it. Is it, it was never built to be a fire station, but are we able to make do, and do we have better than some communities? Yes, we do. We have better than some communities, and we keep up with the maintenance the best we can right now. We had water come in the building a couple of years ago during some heavy rain. And Bob's crew found that it just needed some repointing on the front of the building. They got that taken care of, stopped all the leaks, same thing on the side. So everything is being taken care of like that.
Okay, that was from an employee about conditions of the building, and I know it's an old building, and it was never meant to be a fire station, but. So I just wanted to make
Yep.
sure that last stuff was right.
Yep, no, everything's taken care of as it comes in, that we can do.
Before we close out fire, I would like to ask one question, Chief. Has there ever been any consideration for you of consolidating to the one fire station, and if there's any cost savings by doing so, and what would need to happen in order for you to be able to do that if it was considered?
So, yes, I mean, there is considerations of that. People that have been in the community for a lot of years will know that at one time we had 4 fire stations. In the early 2000s, we went down to 2. The problem we have right now in Baldenville, which is our primary station, I don't have any training room. I do not have a room in that building that I can hold a class in, that will hold enough people to hold a class.
Okay.
Up in Templeton Center,
You have the back
that
room
kitchen
obviously.
area is large enough to have as a classroom and hold apparatus as well. It would be my goal
Mhm.
at someday that the town would be able to afford to put in either one locally fire station or a public safety complex.
Yep.
Yep.
You know, being down in Baldenville is great for people in Baldenville and Otter River.
It's not so great for people in South
It's
Templeton.
not,
Great
it's,
for me.
it's not very good for people in Templeton
I agree.
Center and East Templeton.
Right.
Something in the
West
area
Templeton,
where the
located,
highway
yeah.
barn is, which is geographically the center of town and has some pretty good main roads to get to and from, would probably be the best bet for us.
Balance
And
everything for the entire.
in one
town.
building that would bring us up to date with NFPA, with OSHA,
Yep.
with health guidelines would be phenomenal. We could, you know, if that day ever come and Templeton scratched a scratch ticket and got the money for it, we could take emergency management in with us and get out of a historical building, you know, in the center of Baldenville.
Yep.
But
There's been some talk about selling some buildings in town, moving highway down to 24 home, and if we get that property through tax title and putting the complex up where the highway department is. But we'd have to make a sacrifice and sell some of our favorite buildings potentially, and maybe bring in, you know, a lawyer firm or some sort of firms to take those buildings over, appropriate for the area, whatever the building would be. And, you know, emergency management has been targeted, or even where you are now. If we sold that building on School Street, that could contribute to something up the road.
Thank you. It was a very
It's an idea.
A
It was
good
brought up to
good
me.
answer, and it's
Just not
definitely
original.
future planning.
Oh.
Okay, Tim, go first.
A general comment. Chief, you can correct me if I'm wrong on the numbers, because I know they have merged and a bunch of the NFPA things, they've made applesauce out of it. I believe it's currently NFPA 1870, and I may be wrong. Staffing, and the fire the other day is a great example. Under the standard, you should have had 16 personnel on scene. Ladder 1 went, so I believe that number gets elevated to 17. Did we meet that benchmark?
with mutual aid companies, yes.
With
On our-
mutual aid, yeah.
On our own, not even close.
Right, and you articulated that, we had 5 personnel there. So we're not unique, and you did highlight that as well. Everybody around us nationwide is relying heavily on mutual aid.
Yep.
That is
Yeah.
not the way we should be doing business. We've heard it from this board in the last 2 or 3 years. We have a plan. I'd like to see us execute our plan. I'd like to see us get our fire department to the staffing levels that they need. I'd like to see us come up with a way we can give the chief 2 more personnel this year. Looking down the road, let's give him 2 more personnel the following year. Let's give him 2 more personnel the year after that. So we have enough people to staff an ambulance and an engine company motor vehicle accident, 6 hands on scene, that is awesome. Medical emergency, the standard is to put the crew on the scene in 6 to 8 minutes. We're not meeting those benchmarks on a pretty regular basis, which is sad. However, there are communities that can't make those benchmarks, period. And just a parting thought and a comment, we were lucky, we had a pretty bodacious winter, but I used to live in the north central part of New York State. The Tug Hill Plateau, little town of Barneveld, with all the heavy, wet lake effect snow. Just before the end of all that big season, the fire station roof collapsed because of the snow weight. They lost the structure, they lost all of their apparatus. Let's take a look at that rear of 2 School Street. Let's look at a couple of engine companies, the ambulances, the ladder truck. I'm gonna conservatively say that would be a $10 million replacement cost with a 2 to 3 to 4 year build out time. This town cannot afford that on multiple levels. We have got to do that.
I agree with you about the Manning.
Yep.
And School Street. I mean,
Yep.
I would love to figure out a way to be able to do that, but I like that idea too.
My concern will be liability and legality later on, because if we're not meeting response times and people die because of it.
Yeah.
Residents die, how many people are gonna line up for a wrongful death lawsuit that's gonna cost us millions?
Yeah, it's the same thing I said with the police. We just gotta get the
Yeah.
residents to understand.
Yeah.
This is what you need. We're telling you, the professionals are telling you what you need.
Right, not us.
And I'm not trying to pick on you, chief. I completely understand. I am completely behind you. How can I help you?
We all are. Yeah.
Right.
I fully understand.
So,
Liz, then Bob, and I'd like to continue, please. Thank you.
so the one comment about combining into one building down on School Street. It's a 12 to 14 minute response time to our house over on I'll say the southern part of. Templeton. To get
Down
from one
south.
end to another, it's 6.5 minutes to get from our house to the center of town, and then you add that to the other side,
Yep.
right? And if somebody's not breathing, they're gone.
Right.
And I'm just saying, it's centralizing it in Baldwinville, great for Baldwinville, bad for
Right.
Templeton Village.
Well, and that's, oh, go ahead.
And they do a great job. I'm
Yeah, yeah,
not saying they don't.
Well, no, and on top of that, the building we're in, as it wasn't designed to be a fire station.
Right.
Our crew bedrooms areas is on the second floor. They go down 2 flights of stairs, through the basement, through a garage, outside and into the other garage just to get to that ambulance, to get to that 12 to 15 minute
Right.
response time. So.
My comment is on the centrally located fire station, EMS, lift station, 100%. We should be on it. We should have a plan going. We should get to it. I believe that myself personally, I'm a bigger fan of the ambulance than the fire, because ambulance saves lives, fires, property, mostly, not all. I understand. But I do think we should have a better staffed ambulance, more centrally located, which would also alleviate some of our police need, because for my location where I live, the police are gonna be there 6 minutes before fire can get there. And that's a burden on the police that I don't necessarily think they should have. You know.
Is there a grant for a feasibility study? Maybe put it on the agenda going forward.
Something we can think about.
Yeah.
So that's my.
And I fully agree with you, Mr. May, and with many of the other comments here. I think that moving forward, the best route to sustainability for the town is going to be have some sort of centralized complex in a centrally located portion of the town that houses fire, EMS, emergency services. I'd love to throw police in there at the same time. Because even this building is not going to be sustainable for, a long period of time. Throw town offices in there and have one centralized complex for everything. Because then you can, like, all these satellite locations can be closed down, sold, and at the end of the day, while there's initial cost to do the process, to build and do that, at the end of the day, the likelihood that the building is cheaper on the back end is, the likelihood is higher. So at the end of the day, there's probably savings in the back end. It's just getting everything together to do it first. But I wholeheartedly agree, something centralized on Baldwinville Road in the range of Route 2 is where you'd probably want to be. And that would be, I would say, the pie in the sky end game of what we would want to do. But again, everything takes time. And but I do agree with that. What's that?
But we have to start.
Yes, we have to
Pat, you have
begin.
more
I
time than
wholeheartedly
we
agree.
do.
Yeah, well, there's possibly, but I'm happy to be up. I'm happy to be above dirt most mornings. So, is there anything else, Mr. For fire anyways?
So I can tell you that, I have asked for money for studies in the past and it didn't get past capital. There are 2 studies out there right now, one being a little older. Mr. Terenzini did have something done years ago.
Yep.
And, looking to see if it was feasible for Templeton and Phillips and Fire and EMS to
Yep.
do more together. And there was part of that, went over our buildings and so forth. And then, my union actually just did a study on their own on on
Regionalization.
not regionalization, but on the buildings
Yep.
and the manpower and everything itself. And both of those
Mhm.
showed Templeton's buildings, aging and needing to be more, either being one more centrally located or having 2, one on each side of town, and both of them being staffed to
Mhm.
cut down response times to both sides of town.
I
So,
think that was on Facebook too.
but there have been a couple, and we definitely should do a new one on our own.
I need to keep moving. We are way behind. Gail, are you sure? Okay, I apologize. We are almost an hour behind. We are almost, it's more than that at this point. It's actually, we're an hour and a quarter behind. If there are no more questions for fire, if they could be taken offline, I ask them to do so. Chief, let's talk about ambulance. If you're watching at home, please flip to section 8 of your budget book. We'll talk about the ambulance and the enterprise funds.
Okay, so
Chief,
5,100.
yep, 5,100 ambulance,
So there is actually no lump sum disallowed.
right? 'Cause this
This,
is out of seats.
This budget here covers the other half of all of my full-time personnel.
Yep.
So the 6 positions, and to go along with that, that the funding is at a lieutenant's rate, so if not all of them made it to lieutenant, that would drop back down a little bit.
Yeah.
Here, my captain, my EMS director at this point, his time comes out of this, that 12 hours a week is not his response time for when he comes on calls, but that's what he does to help me maintain the ambulance service. EMS on-call salaries, that's for when I have somebody that comes in, a call person come back for a call. And we have the EMS stipends. I try to get, I have 2 different shifts. It pays $30 for 6 hours. That is just to say you're gonna be available and in the area. You still get paid for the call you go out on to try to get more people interested and to be available to help cover the calls.
Anything on 5,100? 5,110?
So employee support, a $5,700 lump sum disallowed. Again, with this one is some of those reflective coat costs and so forth. Our stocks are good at that now. There's also a large number, 25,000 for paramedic or EMT initial training. We have such a hard time getting people. We put some money in here to help with that. Originally, it was for paramedic, but right now with the state and free tuition, if it's their first degree program, actually the paramedic program qualifies for that. So huge saving on there.
Anything on 5,110? 5,200?
So this is our purchase of services is almost an $8,000 lump sum disallowed. This is really the meat and potatoes of our budget.
Yeah.
We have a lot of user agreements in here, software. It's a lot happens here. We are in the process of changing our reporting software, and I'm hoping to see some cost savings with that, with a better system. Working on our agreements are quite expensive. You can see the striker physio at $16,000 a year.
Yep.
That covers an enormous amount of equipment
Hmm.
on that one. And it's actually paid off in the past. If I had to replace a cardiac monitor right now, we're looking at north of $50,000 on a cardiac monitor. We have two of them. Our agreement, anything breaks on that cardiac monitor, it's a free repair.
Nice.
I have had the repair person come in one time a year or so ago and do a $13,000 repair. It would have cost us 13 grand to repair that monitor at that time, but because of the agreement, it was
Zero
taken
cost.
care of. So,
Nice. And you said, I remember saying last year that that Stryker's response time is excellent.
if I have the striker repairman's cell phone number. If I were to call him right now, the latest he'd be out would be 7 a.m. Monday morning.
Wow.
If it's a weekday, it's usually 7 a.m. the next
Next day.
day,
Okay.
depending on the repair that needs to be done
Sure.
and so forth.
Good.
So,
Anything on 5,200? 5,400.
so this is our supply account, $2,000 lump sum disallowed. We're hoping this is gonna work. I'm fairly confident with some management, it will. One thing that happened is, we're getting less supplies from Hayward Hospital because of all of their financial things. They made it tougher. We still get a lot of our medications and we have to get our narcotics through them, but our regular stuff that we were getting some pretty darn good deals from them on, has to be outsourced to our supply chains, so. But we should be okay with that.
I have a concern about this. About a disallow, is there enough money in the receipts? I mean, this seems like something you would not cut.
So I did have,
at all.
I had a talk with the town administrator about that, and he just says it's in his formula, so it's there. And at present time, I feel if it really was an issue, I'd be able to come back at special town meeting, and it's not taxable money. There is plenty of money in the account that we'd be able to do it. So if I had an issue towards the end of the year, I feel that I could manage that if I had to. So I don't really have a lot of, it's almost like a savings tool to me at this point with that.
I just don't see that there's any kind of disallow there if the funding is there. And unfortunately, and I say that because all these ambulance calls that come in, it's unfortunate. The majority calls of the department. I don't know of anyone in this town that's getting younger. So I just see those calls increasing, the demand for this type of stuff is gonna increase. And I see no reason to be cutting this if the money is there or money is coming in. That really bugs me. They have no disallows under personnel, well, that's salary. But for, talk about service for supplies and equipment for the ambulance and life support and so forth. I just don't see why there's cuts there.
What's your projection for ambulance receipts next year?
Well,
Guesstimation.
so for this year that we're currently in, I'm projecting in the little north of $550,000.
550, let's just use 550 as a number. Right now, with your ambulance receipts, what's on this paper is 512, 939. So there's, obviously I see you can have some wiggle room if it goes to the 550, I get it.
The other thing we're trying to do with that though is
Save it for another.
save it for another
You're
ambulance.
thinking about 40,000.
Correct. But yes, there is some wiggle room and again, hopefully that wouldn't be, if we were running low, especially on that account, it shouldn't be towards the end of the year. we have, even in the fall, special town meeting where I'd be able to come back for it. I don't disagree with you. It's not taxation, and it was felt it was needed to be in the budget. And if we don't spend it, it reverts back to the same account, so it doesn't become free cash.
Right.
I asked a question and he told me it was in the formula, and he was, you know, at this point in time, he just would like to keep.
This is one of those things that I believe it's, and sometimes I know there's been the red DOR stuff for like ambulance and stuff. You do an enterprise fund or you do something like this to not just to see it work, but to create data and look at, 5 years worth of budgets. Okay, we've had this much expense this year, we've had this much increase in ambulance calls, and to see if it actually works. And to me, if we have to start putting in tax dollars to support this, what's the best service to the residents is looking out for their lives. You can always get a new car, get a new house, get a new everything. You can't get a new life.
Yeah.
And again, another talk for another day, but sooner rather than later, we should look at what we've brought in and what we have spent yearly for the past 5 years to see if we need to adjust this department or part of a department with taxation dollars or something, because again, you can put out there, we're gonna charge you $3,000 to get in this ambulance for this and this. Well, here's my Medicaid card. They pay $500 and I got $10 in this pocket. Good luck collecting the rest. I mean, that's the fact.
No,
That's why you have payoffs at the end of the year. Just write it off because you're not gonna take some little old lady's house for 2,000, I mean. So, again, so it disallows in this thing bugs the heck out of me. I don't see any reason for it. Thank you.
Ms. Toth, is there anybody else? I didn't see anybody else. I just wanted to make sure that I had to step out for a second.
Yeah.
Go.
General comment.
Go ahead.
So, and I realize that the select board and advisory can't make any votes or
Nope.
or decisions.
Nope.
But I'm not hearing next steps that we want to put this on the next agenda. We want to talk about this. So here's an example where I would expect to hear, all right, we would really like to look at at putting the $7,000 back in, removing the disallow. How are we
Where do
going
we
to do
get it?
that?
The date.
We can make
The
those
date.
decisions today, by the
I
way.
can
We've
say, I
done
can,
it.
I can say, I'm taking a whole bunch of notes here, and I can tell you that after this meeting, I'm gonna be sending Mr. Francis a whole bunch of requests to be put on the agenda of the next meeting for advisory
This is
to
the
hopefully get
recommended
recommendations. It
This
is.
is a recommended budget. We do that all the time.
Yep.
Where we actually make the changes, whether it's the discussion or otherwise. Sorry, I didn't.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
John, can you copy me on?
But we can make a lot of those decisions, like like when we were talking about the $10,000 for oil, like that was like we gotta make that, by the end of the day, we should be able to say,
Right.
this is where we're moving money or otherwise, but.
All right, I guess I'm just not hearing that part. Maybe I'm just missing it.
It's the when, it's the when.
Yeah.
When, I want the
When.
next actions.
Not the when.
We're gonna,
Sure.
yeah,
Let's just talk.
It's a good point.
Okay.
Right.
hang
I
on,
like
yeah.
that.
To Mr. Bennett's point, and maybe this will help clear it up. These ambulance reserved receipts, these are fenced funds.
Mhm.
I don't believe there's any room with
Guardrails
fenced
on
funds
this.
to have a disallow.
I agree.
The money is already there. It is already earmarked. It's untouchable. How do we disallow untouchable funds?
There's definitely a left and right limit on these.
Yes, we are within guardrails and
And strict guardrails.
very strict guardrails. This is very clearly and tightly defined.
And that's by the law. That's not by the.
Correct.
Selectmen or
That
the
was the
advisor.
town
This is
meeting
what the
vote.
law-
Yes, it was.
Town meeting vote.
The chief said it was, in his discussion, when he meets with Adam, it was more structural than it was
Right.
policy. So I mean, if Adam wants to add, this is what I did for every single account, and maybe, I mean, whatever his opinion is on, that doesn't make sense to do it to a fenced fund like this.
I mean,
And that's what I heard the chief say as a response to say why.
Right, and
It's
he's
with
saying that he
structure.
Yeah,
has,
it's just it's the math built into
Yeah.
the budget and everything like that.
he's got
Everything
$3,000 projected.
Yeah.
Of funds that are movable, projected funds. I mean, I mean, I remember when the ambulance first started, there was a lot of questions where it was only, I think, 225 or 250.
Around 225,000-ish, the
Something
first
like
year
that.
that I became chief.
And then obviously they kept growing and growing and growing, and obviously because obviously we're all getting older here. That
How about
those,
you? I'm still 29 years old.
Shut up.
That is the time that someone said, shut up.
Oh, I know.
I didn't, he did.
Apologize.
Oh.
I'm taking notes over here.
Stop it now.
Actually 12, actually 11.
Please be quiet, please be quiet. But if he's got the $40,000 projected, I mean, to disallow,
Better eat
like
before
in
you
Jeff's
get angry.
perspective, I think that should be put back in. It will be a little bit less potentially savings for the next ambulance, but you don't know that, because this budget, you could see it, because I remember last year, I think you turned in just over $100,000, did you not? From the fire budget itself, I think it was 120,000, you turned back into free cash, suppose, because the budget gets back turned back, not ambulance receipts, ambulance stays in ambulance.
Right.
But I'm saying the budget as a whole, and you turned back about 120 some odd thousand of dollars. Most of that was personnel, and I get that, but I mean, you have to look at that, so I mean, to disallow. But obviously, Adam's looking at the entire budget as a whole, for the entire community, but as far as the fenced objective of the ambulance receipts, to disallow the 200,000, the 2,000 some odd dollars, I think that's kind of. I think we should make a recommendation to put that back in, to keep that 54,700 whole, because it's not gonna affect the budget taxation dollars, it's only gonna affect your end savings potential of that 40,000 projected earnings of the ambulance receipts. But that's just, so.
Anything else on ambulance?
Did you get that, Mike?
Keep writing. Anything else on ambulance?
Just saying, very good point.
No, I was just saying that Mr. Kaplis, he had a very good point, and I agree that in the ambulance, the disallows under both of the categories that I saw them anyway. I don't believe they're justified.
Anything else on ambulance? Chief Dickey, thank you very much.
Thanks, Chief.
I'd like to get emergency management out of the way. I see TEMA user online. I'm going to assume that's somebody from the emergency management. Is it Rich Curtis? After the unmute, this is page in section 4, page 38. Is where the start of emergency management is.
Thank you.
I'm here.
Mr. Curtis,
How you doing?
excellent, sir. Yourself?
Pretty good.
Good. Can you run us down at 5100?
Okay,
Well, emergency management isn't listed on the list, so I'm just getting it in here and he's online. Go ahead.
the first page I'm looking at is the personnel.
Yep, 5100.
Okay. I had put in for what we had been approved for last year, which was the $500 stipend for myself, 250 for each of the 2 EMDs. Peter Layton is not applicable to this because he's a town employee for the fire department. And Mike Dixon was a town, so he didn't get it last year because he was a town employee last year.
Yep.
I don't think he's gonna be a town employee this year. I don't know, this next fiscal year. So I have to assume that he would get that. And Don Warren left us. He resigned because of a medical issue.
Oh.
I am expecting that he will return before the first of the fiscal year. And if not, I do have to replace him. So one of the two will happen. So that's what I put in for. I was advised by Adam that he was going to take away the two stipends for the deputy directors, which I'm not happy to hear, but I understand we're in a budget crisis and I guess everybody has to dig in. So, but that's what it amounts to right now. So this account right here, I believe, is down to $500.
Yep.
From what I understand. I haven't seen anything since my submission, so I'm going off of what I submitted.
No, that's correct. That's what we have.
Okay.
Any questions
And
for him on
so
that?
that's what I have on that one.
Any questions on that? 5100, 5110?
5110,
Support.
right? We always reserve $500 for any kind of training and or exercise that we have to do. Very seldom we have cost in this area, but since we become a training center, that gets used pretty much every year, whether it's for CPR supplies, training certificates, whatever. So that $500 has been pretty much reserved for that.
Okay. Any questions on that? 5,400?
I don't believe there's anything on the 54.
Supplies line.
Hold on.
You have 1,250 on supplies.
Yeah. And this is the usual that we put in for.
Yep.
Water, we go through a lot. The fire department helps us out occasionally as well. But you know, covering for firefighter rehab and our own events, a lot of water goes through CERT and emergency management. $200 for office equipment, $200 for miscellaneous, and usually there's quite a bit of miscellaneous because it is an old building. Yep. And we do have a lot of things. The batteries is one of the big things because we go through those quite often. And then $500 for EOC supplies and equipment. And that's still pretty basic.
Any questions for Mr. Curtis on 5,400? Okay, that's it.
That's it.
You're done.
All right.
Thanks for staying on hold for an hour and a half so you can talk for 5 minutes.
No problem.
Hang on.
I'd like to get their stipends back. So I'd like to, right,
Okay.
so I want to kind of make that.
Try to
note.
find $500
Right.
for the deputy director's stipends to
Yeah,
get that
I mean,
back.
I
Okay.
know.
Let's make note of that.
Yeah,
If
just
we cut
if
that,
everybody,
we fix 3 other departments.
I know, right? Tim,
Not my
One other question.
stipend,
Rich.
but-
go ahead, Tim.
Rich, if I may, my hat's off to your team as always, a small department, but huge benefits with what was done. And I know you folks were very quick on scene Thursday for the structure fire on Patriots Road, assisting anything
I
going.
thank you for that. And quite honestly, I was very surprised. We had a fantastic response for rehab for that event.
And it was very much appreciated by all parties involved.
Well, thank you.
No, the thanks is to you and your team.
So when fires dispatch for say a fire call, emergency management's also notified to dispatch. Okay, great. Thanks.
Yeah, whenever a fire goes to a second alarm, dispatch calls me and we set up code red and get our people moving.
Okay, thank you.
Mike Dixon was instrumental in getting out the code red and moving things along.
and he's producing a musical at the same time.
Multi-talented person, damn.
Can't wait to see that show.
Anything else for anything else for Director Curtis?
He's literally directed.
All right, Rich, thank you.
Thank you. We'll see
Enjoy
you
the
all
weather.
later.
All right,
See you
have a good day.
soon. Bye.
If there is no objection, I would like to, at this point, I would like to propose a working lunch. Just to take a 5 to 10 minute recess so we can all get our food and then come back in and then we'll continue with developmental services and sewer. Is there any objection to that? All right, in that case, at this time, we're going to take, we'll say 10 minutes. We'll take a 10-minute recess. Let's all get our food and then we can, and we'll continue with developmental services and then we'll continue with sewer.
Stop putting mental on that.
Did I say developmental?
I know.
Development service. I'm sorry. It's been that kind of day in case you haven't noticed.